Race fans, the 100% Cup Series welcomes you to the final race of the season where 4 drivers are going to go head-to-head for the championship title at the end of a very long and difficult 36-race season. We got a bit of a packed booth tonight. I'm Andre Graham Bush, joined alongside James Parfit and Michael David, as well as the producer, Carlos Acosta. First of all, James, Michael, glad to have you here.
Good evening. Welcome in. It should be a good one, I think. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a good one. Now, before the qualifying and all the hustle and bustle of race day, we actually got the chance to sit down and talk with our Championship 4 contenders. So we're going to go ahead and let those interviews roll, and we will be back. All right, we are joined in the booth by Bryson Hicks. Bryson, first of all, thank you for taking time out of your day to hop up in the booth for this interview. Good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me for this interview.
So, Bryson, your year started out, by your own admission, a little bit slow. All right, so I am joined by Matt Long here in the booth. Matt, first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to do this interview. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, great to be here.
So you've had a really consistent season. Your average finish is, I think, in the top 5 of all the drivers' average finishes with a 10.6. You brought home 1 race win, 5 stage wins. Given those stats, do you feel extra confident going into Phoenix, or do you think you'll have to push even further beyond what you've already accomplished?
Oh, I'm going to have to push harder than any race that we've had this year, mostly because of the competition I'm going against. You know, Bryson, John, and Lucas have been the best of the best this season, and we know how fast those guys are, and we know they're going to be bringing it. So, yeah, the car's going to have to be right, driver's going to have to be right, and I'm going to have to put my best effort out there for sure this week.
Now, you already kind of mentioned it, but your teammate, John, is one of the competitors you'll have to face on Saturday night for the championship. So I got to ask, does that mean with him being a teammate that you'll maybe cut him some slack on the track or maybe race him even harder?
Not one bit. I'm going to race him like he's no teammate of mine for sure. Not that I'll race him dirty or anything, but no, I want this championship. He knows it too. You know, at Vegas, he was winning and I was in second. And he even came over the mic and said, "Hey, are you locked in?" And I'm like, "Don't you dare thinking about trying to give this to me." And yeah, I raced him hard. He deserved that win at Vegas. I even tried to give him the bumper in 3 and 4 to move him up the track. Just didn't work that race. So I don't know. If it comes down to it, I'm racing him like anyone else for sure.
Absolutely. Now, Phoenix obviously races in a really unique way. It requires kind of a special skill set, I'd say, to navigate. How do you approach this track, and what are your feelings towards it?
I like it. I think it's a track where the driver can make a difference, especially on a longer run. You know, a lot of brake and throttle input. You got to save the tires. So in that regard, I think it's a fun track to drive. I've always enjoyed those flat sweeping turns. You know, New Hampshire, Gateway was similar earlier this season. We ran really well there. And that's kind of like 1 and 2 here at Phoenix. So from a track standpoint, I really like it as a driver. I think it's going to lend itself to some long runs. I think everyone in there get some long runs, which actually as of recently I've been pretty strong on the longer runs. So definitely going to be keeping that in mind going into Saturday.
Absolutely. Now, you and every other competitor in the Final Four dedicate a ton of time to this league. I mean, I don't think the viewers at home can truly appreciate how much work you guys put into the league and iRacing at large, just how much practice and preparation, setup tuning that you do. What would it mean if all your hard work really comes to fruition and you actually walk away with that title this Saturday?
I mean, it would be the biggest, I guess, race in my iRacing career, if you call it that, for sure. You know, you're right. We do. You know, that's been a fun part about this, and is, you know, me and my buddy Taylor Stout, we really started, I would say, about a year and a half, 2 years ago together, just learning, you know, the previous A-class car and now the next-gen car, which we were really excited about. Next-gen kind of, you know, wiped the slate clean and gave everyone a new starting point. So that's kind of when we hopped in. So we were able to kind of learn the car, learn the telemetry, learned the physics of what we needed out of a car and setup throughout the whole year, and it's kind of shown on track. We've gotten better. We've really figured some stuff out. So to see all that, even with or without the championship, just making it to this point, as kind of like a two-man crew building cars, building setups, it's an awesome place to be, and it really shows how much work we put into the cars. But yeah, getting the championship would just be the cherry on top for now, for sure.
It sure would. Well, that's going to do it for the questions. Matt, again, I want to thank you for joining us here for the interview, and wish you some good luck on the track.
Thank you. Let's get it.
All right, we're joined in the booth with John Delaney. John, first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for this interview. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So, John, despite running less races this year than anyone else in the Final Four, you've racked up some incredible stats. 15 stage wins, 7 race wins, and an average finish of 9.7. What's it going to take to bring that sort of performance to Phoenix one last time?
Well, we're gonna have to put some laps in. We're gonna have to, we're gonna have to practice something we didn't do too much this year. So, just gotta get the car ready from the start of the race. Can't really be changing too much, setup wise, making adjustments as the race goes on. We need to be dialed in from the start of the green flag. And being up front as well, starting up front, getting that track position. So I don't think the idea isn't going to change very much like we have all year. Just run up front, stay clean, and just play the right strategy is always the strat to do.
Now, you've recently acquired a pro license on iRacing, and it seems you're always reaching new heights on the simulator. Do you credit this league for maybe teaching you anything that maybe got you where you are, or just helping you improve at all?
Oh yeah. I think my long run has improved quite a lot running this league, as it's a full distance league, so there's always going to be long runs for the most part. Too bad I can't really use that in contender, because it's only 100 lap races, so that's pretty unfortunate for that. But no, I think running this league has definitely just helped me build racecraft, and just get more used to the last year was Gen 6, this year is the next gen. So if I do make it past contender, all my experience from this past year is gonna play very, very big for me going into if I would make Coke. So yeah.
Now, I've already talked to your teammate Matt Long, and he said that he planned on racing you harder than anyone. And I think, given what a threat you've been all year, he's probably not alone in that sentiment. Does that knowledge add any additional pressure?
Possibly. I know anyone that's going to be in that position is going to race me hard. No matter if it's your teammate or not. It's the final race. You and someone else, or you and 3 other people are trying to get that championship and be just kind of have dibs on all next year, next season, saying that you were the last year's champion. So everyone's going to be running as hard as they can. There's going to probably very little room given, and definitely going to be some contact involved for sure. I'm pretty sure.
Definitely going to be some contact. I like it. Some foreshadowing, maybe. So anyways, let's talk a little bit about the track itself. Phoenix, it's a very unique intermediate track. A little bit of banking in one corner, flat in the other. How do you feel about this place?
Well, we felt pretty good. I think, in the spring we felt pretty good there. Obviously, we have a lot of laps in the B car here at Phoenix, but as of Wednesday tonight, I have 0 laps currently in the next gen at Phoenix. So, we'll have to get practicing here and do some runs and get the car dialed in. Yeah, I feel pretty good about Phoenix. Like I said, I've had a lot of laps this week just in the B car, so hopefully we can bring over my knowledge and experience from doing that over to the next gen. So I think it'll be the same concept. I mean, it kind of is for every car. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the questions. John, again, I want to thank you for joining us here in the booth, and good luck on the track.
Thank you.
All right, we're now joined in the booth by Lucas Weitzman. Lucas, first of all, I want to say thank you for joining us up in the booth. Good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It feels good to be in the Final Four.
You've had a quiet yet very consistent season, and that consistency has carried you all the way to the Final Four. When this year started, could you have imagined making it this far?
I was hoping to get top 10s every week. I definitely didn't see making the playoffs as one of them, but making the Final Four is a dream come true, I guess.
Now, how are you and your team preparing for this weekend? Would you say it's business as usual, or is there a bit more TLC going into these preparations given the context?
I'd say there's definitely a lot more buzz around practice this week, but I'm just trying to stay, to keep it as a normal week. Let's just keep doing what I've been doing. Don't really want to make a big fuss out of it because that's when you make mistakes. So just going to try to treat it as a normal race weekend.
Trying to keep it calm, cool, collected. I like it. Now, obviously, the competitors in the Final Four, you've got John Delaney, Bryson Hicks, Matt Long, and yourself. Is there anyone amongst the Final Four that you might find yourself racing a little bit harder than the others? And if so, why?
Bryson, I think, he's one of the guys that has raced me very clean the whole year. So I'd say if there's anybody I wouldn't wreck for a win here, it would have to be Bryson. But the other two, I mean, they've all raced me clean this whole year. I would say I wouldn't hold any grudges going into this race, but I'm also going to say if it comes down to a little bump and run for championship, might have to do it,
Yeah, I mean, when it's all on the line, sometimes you just go a little bit further, for sure. But I like it. You mentioned you've been racing really clean with Bryson, and I would say now is a good time to cash in goodwill. Anytime you can cash in that goodwill during a championship weekend, that's pretty good. So I got to ask you the same question I've asked everybody else. How do you feel about Phoenix? It's intermediate, mostly flat track. A little bit different from some of the other tracks we really go to throughout the year. Do you think this track's racing style suits you?
I'm gonna have to say no. The first race here this season.
That's not what we want to hear.
No, it's I'm not feeling too good entering this weekend, but I also didn't feel good entering my win. I didn't feel good entering Texas where I won a stage. I never know what's gonna happen, and just trying to keep my head up because anything can happen in these cars. They changed a ton since the last time we went there, so.
Yeah, of course, a lot of updates. iRacing always kind of changing things. Well, Lucas, that's going to do it for the questions. Again, I appreciate you joining us up in the booth, and good luck on the track.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we are joined in the booth by Bryson Hicks and Bob. Bryson, first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to hop up in the booth for this interview. Good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me for this interview.
So, Bryson, your year started out, by your own admission, a little bit slow. A little bit of, let's say, a learning curve with a new car. But once the playoffs began, that 63 team found a ton of momentum, and you racked up an impressive 3 wins on the season so far. Now, I'm not asking you to give up all your speed secrets by any means, but is there anything in particular that you can attribute to that rapid improvement that we've seen recently?
It's really just been the change in the car in June. I did not at all like how the car originally handled at the start of the season. I had a lot of speed in it, but I couldn't put together a full race with it, and I had plenty of issues that just took me out of races, even with race-winning cars. But then June came around, the car was tweaked with the updated information that iRacing got from actually having races with the cars in real life, and I just felt significantly better in it. I understood how to drive it a whole lot more. I could finish races consistently, and I had good speed.
All right. Now, you stated in the past that due to the playoff format, you didn't really value championship titles quite as much as some of the other drivers in the league. You said that simply doing well and getting wins was really kind of all you were seeking out week to week. Has that opinion changed before heading into the final round, or do you stand by it?
I still stand by it. I look at my season, and I don't really see a championship season in here. Like, I've been one of the top drivers this year, but John has been significantly better than the rest of us all year long. Lucas has been very fast and consistent all season. Adam has had a lot of speed, and unfortunately for him, he doesn't even get to race for the championship.
Yeah, sometimes the drivers that make it into the Final Four are a little bit unexpected. Sometimes some crazy things happen. We've seen it in the past. Now, you mentioned Lucas. When we talked to Lucas, we asked him who we thought he might race a little bit harder for the win than anybody else. And instead, he told us that instead of racing you in particular harder, he'd actually race you cleaner than the other two competitors that he's got to face. Do you think building up goodwill amongst the other drivers like you have will be a benefit come race time?
I definitely see it as a benefit. It's something that I've prided myself on in this league and on iRacing in general, is that I try to race people as cleanly as possible every time I go out there. And it's something that we saw last year here for the championship that came into play. Is last year John did not make any friends, and that made his championship race a lot harder than the other three of us. And it ended up with him not winning it, even though he was possibly faster than Adam. But Adam had a much easier time getting through the field, and he ended up winning the race because of it.
Yeah, last year's championship race definitely kind of showed exactly what reputation can do. You're absolutely right. Final question. Obviously, we all know that Phoenix is your home track, so there's always going to be some sort of attachment to it for you, but has the Gen 7 car impacted how you view this track at all?
Not much. I will say, though, that the change in the track that happened last year, we finally got the new version of the track with the start-finish line moved. It's actually been much of a learning curve for me, even though the track itself didn't change and just the location of when laps start and end. But it feels like a completely different track to me. I've struggled a little bit with it. I didn't do as well as I really wanted to last year in the championship race, and I was not anywhere close to race winning speed here in the spring. But I think I figured it out a little bit better this week, and hopefully I'll be up there at the end competing for the championship.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the questions. And again, I want to thank you for joining us in the booth, and good luck on the track, Bryson.
Thank you.
So we've taken a look at what the drivers in the championship hunt had to say earlier in the week, but now it's time to catch back up and fast forward to the present, that's not the right word, present for the Coben Johnson Championship here at Phoenix, where the drivers have only a handful of minutes left in practice before it's time to grid up. And I gotta wonder if some of their answers or some of their demeanor has changed in the time since they had those interviews. I feel like midweek, before you really get in the car and the nerves really start to get to you, you feel pretty calm, pretty confident, and then once you strap in, you start to feel those butterflies in your stomach. What do you think, James?
They've got to be. They've got to be nervous. It's been such a long season. And for Matt Long, John Delaney, Lucas Weitzman, and Bryson Hicks, they've got one race. It all comes down to this race. And if they're not nervous, they're not normal. Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman himself from Formula One, will tell you he never got nervous. Well, these guys are either going to be super cool and chilled, or they're going to have butterflies. They've just got to, concentrate, knuckle down, and go and show us what they can do on track this evening.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think I've got butterflies. This is giving me so much intense excitement that I can't imagine what it'd be like for one of those four drivers in the championship race. It's just an absolute awesome track to finish up here at Phoenix. I can't wait for tonight here for the Coben Johnson Championship. This is gonna be great.
And I really feel like each one of these drivers has their own individual reasons to be nervous. First of all, you've got Bryson Hicks involved. He's a driver who's been here twice before, contending for the championship, and it's just never come to fruition. Back in 2020, he came as close as he had ever been in an unfortunate last lap incident, spinning off the bumper of Cameron Stone. Took that opportunity and that trophy away. Cameron Stone took that trophy, and he carries it with him to this very day. And then you have Jonathan Delaney. Now, the reason that John's got to be feeling the pressure is because he is, bar none, the favorite to win tonight, statistically. He's got the most wins on the season, currently sitting at about 7, I believe, and an average finish of 9. There's not another driver in the league with an average finish in the single digits. If he was to not win tonight, that would be a massive disappointment and a massive turnaround in performance for the season that we've come to expect out of him. Then you've got Lucas Weitzman. Lucas told me in that interview you heard he never expected to make the playoffs, let alone come all the way to the championship race, the Coben Johnson Championship here at Phoenix. So when you exceed your own expectations that far, you start wondering, well, how far can I go? Where can we take this? And you start wondering, do I even belong here? Should I be here? I got to prove that I belong here. And that makes you nervous. Then you got Matt Long. Now, Matt Long, solid driver all year long. But his main thing has been consistency. He's never been the outright fastest driver on the track, I don't think, this year, but he's consistently been one of the front runners, and that consistency has brought him here. But the thing is, you guys both know, James and Michael, that in a winner-take-all straight dash to the finish, where it's no longer about points, it's just about who can finish as far ahead as possible, consistency may not win at all. So for all 4 of these drivers, they got a lot to think about.
So let's look at it for these 4, right? As you say, Matt Long has been consistent, and he's done an absolute stellar job. Bryson over the last 3 or 4 races has been a little bit more inconsistent, whereas Delaney has been flying, right? Heitzma as well. He's done a stellar job. He's been absolutely killing it in the last set of blocks of races, and he's just done an incredible job. He's the one that you can count on and say he's been up there. He's been up within the top 10. He's managed to avoid all these incidents. He's managed to avoid all that. And if I was a betting man, between them all, because of the discrepancies that they've all had, I would go for Heitzma. But as you say, Delaney's the outright favourite, and he's the one expected to run away with it. But as we know, anything can happen. One slide, you're in the wall. One crash in front, and you don't see it. It's an open book for these guys to write their own chapters. And I think from their point of view, they've just got to knuckle down. They can't be too cautious, because if you're cautious, it leads to mistakes. They can't be too aggressive, because if they go for a move that's not there, it also leads to a mistake and can end up in the wall. I just think that we might say about Matt Long and his consistency, but it's possibly the consistency that might win. That being able to read the traffic, being able to read what's going on in front of him, Matt Long might come out on top of this.
Yeah, Matt Long's had some great long run speed. So if we get a long, green flag run here, look for Matt Long to not only be consistent, but to be fast in those long green runs. John Delaney, obviously, we all know what he's capable of doing. I know earlier in the season, Andre, you would discuss with me how last year John Delaney would be fast, but then make a mistake here and make a mistake there, and just was never really able to, finish. This year has been about finishing. 9 wins. 9 wins. That is just absolute dominance. And I think anything less than, a win tonight for John Delaney for this championship is going to be a failed season for him once again. Lucas Weitzman also been very consistent, very strong. You always see him up there at the top of the leaderboard. Bryson Hicks and Ball also bringing it. They've been very, very, very consistent. All 3 of those drivers, and then you throw in John Delaney, who's seems like he's winning every other week. But when you really bring it down, it's all about not making those stupid mistakes, like you said. If you look at last week, there was a couple mistakes that brought a couple of the drivers from the championship 8 out of the race, and some of it wasn't their own doing, but they just get involved in the wrong place at the wrong time. You just gotta be careful tonight, but you can't be too careful because it's for all the marbles. Everything counts tonight. Nothing else matters but what you do tonight here in Phoenix.
I couldn't agree more. Now, as the cars are gridding up, I think it's time for the final time this year to take a little bit of a walk through our starting grid and see exactly where our drivers qualified. So, if you got a favorite driver in the field, keep an ear out for their name as we go through this. Adam Benefiel on pole in that 83. He's been on a bit of a hot streak, of course, winning Martinsville. Jonathan Delaney to his outside. Bryson Hicks is going to sit inside row 2 in third. And then you got Taylor in that number 12, who's going to be outside row 2. He just recently signed a new contract for next year. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. Lucas Weitzman, P5. Dustin Hall is going to be on the outside of him in P6 in that number 1 machine. RJ Root, Matt Dicciani, 7 and 8. And 9 and 10 is going to go to Derek Heitman and Matt Long.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Alex van der Sande is kicking us off in 12th place, along with Robert Miller in 13th, Tanner Marti in 14th, Devin Medeiros down in 15th, Ralph Hutchinson 16th, Trevor Ryan 17th, Chad Sanna 18th, Blake Giglio in 19th, Carl Lamont in 20th, Cameron Stone 21st, Randy Drumhill 22nd, Wayne Grass 23rd, and Dalton Mobley in 24th.
Yep.
So, go ahead. Sorry, Michael.
Andre, go ahead.
I was going to say that rounds out our field. Take it away, Michael.
Yeah, no, this is going to be an exciting start here. Sorry, let me learn how to speak again. But yeah, I can't believe we've really come this far. It feels like me and James just joined this league with you guys, just started coming and watching these races with you guys, and now we're coming up to the championship. I'm so excited to get this started tonight. I can't wait.
I agree, and I apologize. We discussed I was the one that came up with the speaking order, and then I already forgot it. So I do apologize for that, Mike. But the green flag is in the air, I believe. Nope, they're going to pace again. One more time around. So the pace truck did pull off, and they did cut the dog leg there. But we are going to go around one more
there's
time.
There's the pace truck right there.
Yep, I can confirm that Damaris has extended by 1 lap. I think just giving us enough time to really get the pre-race through the field and everything. Luckily, we actually got through it in, I would say, record time. So we didn't really need that extra time. But here we go down what used to be the front stretch. Now it is the very narrow back stretch, and the pace truck making the longest drive it's going to have all year, as it's a very unique pit road for this mile-long intermediate circuit. And now, for real this time, Adam Benefiel in that Jimmy Strong 83 is going to lead them to the flag stand right through the restart zone. And there's already some contact. Looks like Bryson got a bit of a bump from Lucas Weitzman, which is going to give him a shot to get parallel with the number 6. Are they going to be 3 wide into the corner? No, Bryson dips out of that move. He thought about it, considered it. Nope, a little bit early for that one.
Yeah, I think they're not going to go 3 wide this early on. I think the interesting thing will be is how they run this first stage. Hicksebrecht, Delaney, Hoytsma, all there. Matt Long's down in 14th. I'm not. Oh! The 76 is in the wall. That's going to be caution 1 already on lap 2. And that's Dustin Hall in the wall with Derek Heitman. Well, that's not going to be a long run.
No, that's definitely not going to be a long run at all, and we'll see if we can get a replay on that here momentarily. Yeah, but you saw a bunch of those cars going 2 wide and almost 3 wide there on the start. I think we're going to see quite a bit of that. We get a look at the replay here, see what happened, and it looks like... Oh, yeah, that was kind of weird. He just kind of jumped up there. I'm not sure what happened there.
It could have been a little bit of contact or perhaps just over-correcting a slide. We'll get a better look at it here on the 3-wide TV replay. Maybe a little bit of contact to the rear of the car in front of him got him sideways, and then he was just chasing it up the track, and Dustin Hall had nowhere to go. So very unfortunate there as we take another look at it. Now, luckily no playoff drivers in it, but man, look just ahead of this incident. You're going to see a slew of red banners that are thinking what could have been, including Matt Long. You see him just kind of sneak through this incident. That would have been a disastrous start for that 97 if he had just been a few inches further up the track. But luckily, no harm, no foul. Now, while these drivers come down pit road and get some of this damage fixed, I do quickly want to mention the name of the race, the Coben Johnson Championship. Obviously, throughout the last 2 seasons, the drivers have been running the Jimmy Strong banners and paint schemes. And we have even at one point ran a race in Coben's name and raised some funds for him and his family for a good cause. Went over very well, and everybody was very grateful for that. Unfortunately, Coben did lose his battle, and now this championship will be run in his memory, in his honor, and in the honor of the strength of his family as well. I don't think enough can be said about his family, including Dustin Hall, who was in that incident there. To go through what they've been through and to still show up to the racetrack and try to race under those conditions, it's got to be tough. But sometimes I think you know that it's what he would want. It's what you got to do. Now, Adam Benefield winning Martinsville with that paint scheme, that Jimmy Strong paint scheme, was a very special moment. I know James and Michael, you guys had the honor of broadcasting that race, and I was watching it live, and just what a moment for Benefield.
Yeah, he turned around and was in that interview when I spoke to him last week, and he turned around and said straight away, that was for Jimmy, that was what we did. I wish I could have done more. He's gone out tonight, and he's turned around when we spoke to him, and he just went, I'm going to win it. I'm going to win it. That's it. That's what Benefield said. I'm going to win it. And I doubt there was any doubt that he was planning on doing that. And we are green again here, as we can see Benefield leading us away currently as well. Absolutely. He's got the jump on everybody else. Everybody's going to have to settle in and see how they go. But yeah, I think from Benefield's point of view, he was going out to win it. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, to be honest. I think he will. I think everybody else is just battling away. But I think, yeah, Benefield was really touched by it all. And, you can feel his emotions coming through on that one.
Yeah, it's extremely touching hearing his words and just how confident he is, winning last week and then wanted to come here and just absolutely dominate. And we're going to see quite a few close calls here as we get our second caution. Maybe I should stop talking because I seem to be bringing them all out.
Yeah, we'll call it a commentator's curse. Now, this is maybe a case of the yips, guys. I don't know if you ever heard that term in sports, but sometimes in high-stakes situations, high-performing athletes and high-performing players just kind of make weird little mistakes, and it seems like the beginning of this race has been fraught with little errors. Like got a hard hit. I mean, just nosing it into the wall, and nowhere for Damaris to go. Right there in the double O, you see him get a piece of that. Man, oh man, that was a vicious hit for the number. We're going to ride along with the number 16, see what he saw. Well, he saw a whole lot of blurs is what he saw spinning at that speed.
Yeah, I don't think, good job we're only looking at the sim racing world, really. Otherwise, Blake Giglio there would have, needed probably a visit somewhere. But, at the end of the day, what are we looking at in seriousness, though? Are we looking at these yips? Are we looking at the fact that they've all gone out nervous? What I want to bring to attention is where they've happened. So just catching a replay on the screen.
Oh, yeah, you see that. You see Blake Giglio hit that wall really, really hard there. And yeah, like you were saying, we're definitely very lucky that this is in the virtual reality world. Some of these incidents that we've seen, they would be extremely dangerous for the real life drivers. And I mean, you see that in real life as well, with the tailgates being shorter and, with the concussion issues that they've had all season long. But we're definitely, definitely lucky that some of these incidents are just virtual reality. It sucks for Blake Giglio and the damage that he's going to have for the rest of the race if he's not able to repair it. That was a really hard hit in these cars that were involved there, but lucky that, in the virtual world, they're all going to be able to walk away from this no problem.
Including the 77. He's going to be driving away from this. I mean, just threading the needle. He went full Days of Thunder. I'm through it, Harry. He saw the smoke. He didn't slow down. He accelerated through it and somehow comes out the other side unscathed. That was probably one of the most impressive things I've ever seen Dalton do. And I've been watching him drive for a while. So just take another look at this. You see the number 7, Wayne Grassley. He is just Beyblading down the infield. And Dalton, by a hair, he's going to squeeze through it all. Man, oh man, what a play.
Yeah, absolutely stellar driving from Dalton there. About the fact of where they both have been on track is as they come across that inside corner and then they come back up onto the banking, and that's where both cautions have taken place so far here tonight. And whether or not that's a sign that, hey guys, don't ride that line, because, you know, we haven't been going long, and this has already been happening as well. It's almost as they come back up onto the banking, it all goes a little bit wrong. So I think these drivers are going to have to be a little bit careful doing what they were doing on that inside line. I think we don't want to see caution after caution after caution. You know, we saw 29 of them in Martinsville. We don't want to see nowhere near that here. But as I say, if they come down off that inside line and then come back onto the banking here, that's where most of it. That's where the dramas have happened. And whether or not that's the fact that they're coming back up onto the banking, unsettling the car, not entirely sure. But I think that could be a hot spot that the drivers might have to avoid.
Yeah, Andre, I'm glad you brought up the yips. I know I'm pretty familiar with that watching professional sports here in the U.S. I'm not sure about you, James, but I'm sure that happens in soccer or football. Sorry, in football. Yeah, I think it's not necessarily these drivers that are in the championship that are having the yips, because we see these guys getting underway here momentarily. Adam Benefield's going to bring us to the green flag here, but we see these guys, you know, this is the last race of the season. Everybody's trying really hard. Everybody wants to finish strong, and I think that might have a lot to do with the fact that they might be just trying just a little bit too hard, a little too early in the race, and, you know, that's what's causing some of these incidents to happen as we come down to the Geico restart zone, and away we go.
Adam Benefield getting another good jump, as he's been tending to get on these last couple restarts, leaving the rest of the field, including the playoff contenders, in the dust. He's got about a car length advantage over Lucas Weitzman, who's currently having his neck breathed down by Jonathan Delaney. Now, before that caution, John had actually jumped ahead of Weitzman for the current, I would say, lead of the championship. But on that restart, Lucas got a really good run. He was able to use that jump to his advantage. He's currently the furthest ahead of the playoff contenders. Now, I want to remind the viewers at home, so how this works is just about identical to real-life NASCAR. For the playoff contenders, Hoytsma, Long, Delaney, Hicks, and Bach, stage points don't matter. The only thing that matters is who is in front of the other three at the end of the race. That will be your champion. Now, there is still technically a points battle for 5th place on back that is going to be taking place, and that these guys are still eligible for, who aren't going to be winning the title. And for those drivers, stage points do count, and they will aid them in their running order. So just keeping that in mind, stage points not going to be too important for the Final Four as they round 1 and 2. I'm going to call that 3 and 4 at some point, because I'm too used to that being the final set of corners and the flag stand being where it used to be. But coming through the new 3 and 4, we're going to go on board with Jonathan Delaney, who has slipped back one more position to Bryson Hicks and Bach. And look at this, Bryson going for the lead of the championship early on.
Yeah, he's going for it early. I think at the end of the day, Bryson's got to settle in, and if that's what he's going to be wanting to do and moving up, he's got to go for it, right? He's out of that almost that danger zone from that mid pack that could cause the drama and the chaos behind him, and he's leading them away. And he's made a stand, and he's turned and said, you know, I'm here as well. I'm going for it. We're just waiting for Matt Long to get up there, and then we're going to have this interesting 4-way as we go right down to the end of the race.
Yeah, I think if you're Matt Long, you really want to just kind of start making your way up the field with 2 early cautions like that. That's got to be kind of, you know, a little scary for him to be in the middle field, in the middle of the pack there. As we see here, Jonathan Delaney, he's got his camera on, the avatar. I've always loved that. But I think if you're Matt Long, you really want to start making moves towards the front of the field. We know he's got a long run pace, but you don't want to be that far back and then get mixed up in something that, you know, isn't your fault, you had nothing to do with, and, you know, have that ruin your championship. I think if you're Matt Long, you really want to get a move on as quickly as possible.
And I think you make a good point there, Michael. Being in the middle of the pack is statistically where most of the accidents and incidents are going to happen. So if you're a playoff contender, that's definitely not a safe place to be. We saw it on lap 1. The 97 barely squeaked by on the outside, nearly got involved in an incident that could have been the end of his championship before the race had ever truly began. And he's still back there. He's still running, I believe, 13th at the current time. He's got Ryan right behind him there. He's got to move forward. If for nothing else, then just for safety's sake. I'm not trying to trash any of the drivers around him. I'm just saying that when you've got a lot of cars bunched up, no matter how good they are, you're going to be running the risk of an accident, and midfield is where they're going to be the most bunched up. I also quickly want to point out Cameron Stone. He qualified all the way back in 20th. Boys, he just reached the top 10.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the 2 cautions and everything we've had so far is easily achievable for Cam Stone to keep moving forward. You know, there's never a doubt with Cam Stone. You know Cam is just going to be moving. You know he's going to be happy. Has he picked up the cable ties? Is that what I'm staring at? He has, yeah. He's picked up the cable ties.
Yeah, Cam Stone doesn't have them on the floor anymore. So they are back there on the table as we take a look here. We also don't have the foot cam tonight. We have his actual camera. But yeah, Cam Stone moving through the field. No surprise there. Cam Stone, previous championship winner, and has been having a strong season. Unfortunately, he did get knocked out, I believe, in the round of 12. But he, still finishing strong, even though he wasn't technically in the championship. He's advancing through the field like previous championship winner, and I'm really not surprised to see that. Matt Long up in the 12th now, but yeah, I'm really kind of surprised that Matt Long is still just kind of sitting outside the top 10.
Yeah, I gotta say, that's probably the thing that's surprising me the most too, is just how he's not really made up too many positions. I feel like this kind of track is fairly decent for Matt Long, just from what I've seen him do at tracks like New Hampshire, other flat venues that we kind of go to. But, I mean, we'll see. Like we talked about pre-race, he is a bit of a long-run driver, right? And so these cautions that we've had, while they might be helping a driver like Cam Stone, they might be hindering a driver like Matt Long. And as we're talking about long runs, I want to mention the stage lengths. So I believe the first stage, right now it's showing it on the broadcast as 60. I'm not entirely sure that's accurate. Let me take a second look at my notes. Okay, no, stage 1 will be lap 60. That is correct. So they can easily make that on a fuel run. I did doubt Carlos. I apologize. I was told 75 previously in the week. Maybe they hadn't got that sorted out. But they can easily make that, guys. I mean, that's an easy run all the way to the end, no stops. Now, the second stage is 2-1. There's no way they're going to make it to the end of stage 2 without stopping under green. If they can kind of get over the rash of cautions that we started with, and it appears they have, there's going to be a lot of strategy playing out, which could turn this thing around for that 97.
Yeah, I want to wonder, right? Maybe I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. Maybe I'm because I'm British and I can be, and we generally will be. Why are we doubting Matt Long? Like, we're 24 laps in to a 312 lap racing. Everybody's seen in the booth Matt Long come through the field, and we are talking that a race is only 25 laps old, right? We've got 312. Matt Long can run. He can run long, and if this stays as it is, even for the next 15 laps, Matt Long's making moves, guys. Let's be not in retrospect of the fact that he's not going to get there, because I think Matt Long will be there, and I've got him down, and I put it in the YouTube chat that Matt Long is my choice, right? I'm going to put it out there just purely because of the way he's been so consistent. He's 10th, guys, 10th. Like, no time at all, really, in hindsight, when you're coming to a track like Phoenix, behind the leaders. Matt Long will be there at the end, and I think, come on, let's not doubt the number 97 car. He can run long. Let's give the guy a little bit of credit here.
Okay, I think you're misunderstanding me a little bit, because I definitely do not doubt that Matt Long is able to get up there towards the front. I think what I'm more saying is, with the rash of cautions that we had, it's got to be really kind of frustrating for Matt, because with the first one, he barely escaped without any damage. And you never know, being in the middle of the pack like that, Andre already said it, and it's pretty well known, most incidents are going to happen in that midfield. So I'm not necessarily doubting Matt Long. We know he's got the talent and the ability to get up front. We know he's strong on long runs, just like his name says. But being where he is right now has got to be frustrating, because it's way more likely of an opportunity for somebody else to make a mistake and just end up taking Matt Long out. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. So if you're Matt Long, yeah, we know he's got great long run potential, but he doesn't necessarily want to be waiting for a long run to come to him to be able to unlock that potential. I think he wants to, as we see Bryson, no, that's Demarius Hickenbaugh. But we want, I think Matt Long doesn't want to wait too long for that long run ability to come to him. He wants to get up there and get going as soon as he can. I don't think anybody is doubting him. Now, Andre, you did say something earlier about the flat track. I do want to point out, this is a very, very flat track. I think I saw 11 degrees in the turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the highest degree of bankings around here. So that's incredibly flat. That is a very, very low angle there for those corners.
It is, and they're both different. Going into this corner right here, that's about the most banking you're going to see. Is in 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2, or what is currently 1 and 2, is pretty flat. I don't know if anybody watched Kenny Wallace's video about Ty Gibbs, but he pointed out, well, if you're gonna wreck somebody, don't do it in 1 and 2, or in 3 and 4. There we go. I'm getting them backwards already. Don't do it in 3 and 4 because there's too much banking and it might actually catch him. And he's not wrong. Very different ends of the track, very unique driving style, but we do have a battle for the lead. Bryson Hicks is going to get around RJ Root, who was a playoff driver, knocked out earlier in the playoffs. Now it is going to be all 63 up front. Now, you might notice a paint scheme Bryson is running. Number 1, the roof number's backwards. And number 2, the hood logo says knee-high septic, despite being the font for Hugger Oranges. That is because Bryson lost a bet this year. He bet Kevin Steele that Kevin Harvick was washed in real life. He wasn't going to win any races this year. And then Kevin Harvick went and won. So now Kevin got to design a scheme for Bryson, and he just decided to make it so infuriating.
Yeah, but it's only infuriating if you let it be infuriating. You see the funny side to it, It's hilarious for us up in the booth because it's something to talk about. By the end of the day, poor Bryson going around in the scheme that was designed by somebody else.
I mean, if you're going to win a championship in a septic tank car, why not? I know personally growing up, I had a buddy of mine, their family owned a septic company, and let's just say that they were absolutely filthy rich. I do mean filthy, but they were filthy rich.
Oh man, here we go with the puns already. We're 35 laps in, boys. A little bit further back, let's take a look at Cameron Stone, who is currently reeling in Robert Miller in that number 15 machine. Now, I think what we're seeing right here, boys, is we're seeing the accordion effect that this tire model of iRacing kind of provides. What tends to happen, because the tire wear has been so exaggerated versus what it used to be, oh no, yellow flag out on the circuit. That is going to be Patrick Muchet in the number 46. Something happened in 1 and 2. I'd like to get a look at the right side of that car if he has any damage, but we're going to take a look at the 3-wide TV replay. He's got the number 40 behind him, and it's going to be a little bit of a love tap to the left rear quarter panel, and then a slight overcorrect. Luckily able to avoid the wall, avoid any damage there, but that's going to be, I think, a reoccurring thing tonight. This car is so difficult to save. That's the second overcorrection we've seen where it's spinning one way and then the driver just immediately whips it around the other way. The old car was hard to overcorrect. This car has a diffuser, and once the air leaves that diffuser and that ground force is gone, it's kind of like an Indy car. It just wants to snap around, and the effect is just amplified at a flat track where the banking is not there to keep you spinning in a certain direction.
Yeah, they're going to have to be a little bit careful anyway in the car. We know the difficulties of driving this car, at the end of the day. They're going to have to be careful with it. The only good thing there is that Muse kept it out of the wall. We've got a caution. He survived the wall. He didn't hit the wall. But the overcorrection could have quite easily put him in there. And as you say, once you start overcorrecting the car, the back end goes, you snap it back the other way, and you're generally torpedoing it into something. Whether it be a barrier if you're on a racetrack, a road circuit, or a wall if you're on an oval, you're going into something. But he's managed to keep it out of the wall. So he lives to fight another day, and we are only on lap 37. We have got, 3 cautions in. There's an opportunity that we could see the big one later on, where that overcorrection takes out 3 or 4 or 5 drivers. We've seen a couple already. It's possible we might see it worse, but touch wood, let's hope we don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a worse caution. I don't think anybody wants to see that. But with the way that these guys are running multiple lines coming down from the flat surface up into the banking, even though there isn't much banking, there's just, there's a lot of room on this track. But at the same way, the way the lines come together, the way everybody comes together to get onto the straights, I feel like we are going to see quite a few of those quarter panel hits. And that could definitely take out 3, 4, 5, 6 cars if, we're in the wrong situation at the wrong time. I think that's a possibility. I just hope we don't have to deal with that because we had a nice clean green flag run going there. We're starting to see some of these cars really pick up their long run pace, and we got some pit stops in. So it was nice to see there. A little bit of strategy coming into play.
Yeah, I'm half surprised and half not surprised that almost the entire field came down. I'm not surprised because they've gone nearly 40 laps and the tires are cooked. I mean, there's nothing left of those things, I'm sure by now. Their lap times had degraded by almost 2 seconds by the time that caution came out. And that was with the help of a lot of pacing earlier as well that was kind of maybe saving on wear. But the reason I am a little surprised is because this race is different than most. Any other race, you think, okay, I've been out here 40 laps. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some tires. But here, you don't know when you're going to need those tires. And those tires could potentially mean more than anything else. Because having one extra set of tires could be the difference between winning the championship and losing the championship. So I would think some of these drivers would be a little bit more choosy when they come behind the wall, especially when they know that they got another stage caution coming here in roughly 21 laps. And they definitely wouldn't go a lap down, I don't think, in that time frame. But they did choose to pit. It is going to be Bryson Hicks in that beautiful backwards numbered scheme, working his way to the Geico restart zone. Outside line lagging back massively, and that's going to give Bryson a huge jump. I believe that's John Delaney on the high side, pushing RJ Root to no avail. And down on the low line, it looks like there's going to be a lot more speed down there. So that was not a good restart, guys, for that outside lane.
No, definitely not. It's going to be interesting to see what they start doing now, whether or not they're going to file back in or they're going to keep running it. I think Bryson's got away. He's made a barnstorming start. Adam Betterfield right behind him. We know what Adam's on. We know what he's going on about and what he's going for this evening. But I think from the outside is whether or not there isn't almost, if you have a look back through the field, there isn't a set column pattern that we're used to seeing. They're a little bit squirrely all over the track. There's a few that are sitting on the ins, there's a few that are sitting on the outs. And, they've all got to kind of decide what's going to happen because the indecision can cause to the mistakes that we're seeing and maybe that yips that we're talking about because nobody can really make up their mind where they want to be on the track. They're all jiggling backwards and forwards. They're all a little bit out. It's like playing a game of Jenga and leaving the block sticking out. That's kind of what they're up to at the moment.
It looks like everybody's really trying to figure out where they're most comfortable with which line. These 2 turns, 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, like Andre said, completely different. And then you throw in the dog leg there. It's gonna give you the opportunity to really choose where you want to be on the track and what's most comfortable for you. That being said, these guys are going to have to figure it out sooner than later because we're 43 laps into this race already. They're going to have to figure out where their fast line is and stick to it.
Now, I want to quickly talk about John Delaney. Jonathan Delaney recently got a pro license on iRacing, which basically means he got enough points in Road to Pro to graduate to the pro license. And now he is running the basically preliminary league to get into the Coke Series, which people who get a certain amount of points in that league go to the Coke Series. And he recently had a race here at Phoenix in that division in the B car, the Xfinity car, and things did not go too well. I don't want to throw any shade at John or anything like that, but the race did not go to his liking. And I feel like that race may have brew his frustrations with his track. And I got to wonder, did that lower his confidence coming into this championship race, or did it fuel the fire and make him even faster? Because now this track has annoyed him, it took something from him, and he wants it back.
Okay. Does a Matador run away from the bull? That's all we got to ask.
Depends on if I'm the Matador. Because if it's me, I'm running away.
Well, the Phoenix circuit is the bull. John Delaney is the Matador. He wants to take the circuit. He ain't worried about that. He knows, he's experienced enough to know what he needs to do. He would have gone away and assessed what had happened. And Delaney will come back stronger. And that's the thing. I have no doubts in my head that he has got the bull by the horns and he's going to run his race. And I think that's what we're going to see. Calm John Delaney all the way through this evening. I think it's interesting to point out that Matt Long is just still not panicking. He's still going around doing his things in 10th place. But I think from Delaney's point of view, he's going to want to tame the beast. And if this is his beast, he's going to want to be after it.
Yeah, Bryson Hicks out front, though. He's pulled out to about a second lead there on RJ Root and Adam Benefield, who are now switching back and forth. But we haven't really talked about him too much because he's just been dominating out front there. Bryson Hicks just having a solid run here. I think, like you guys are saying, John Delaney, you know, he might have had that rough race, but he's been so consistent this season. I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be able to shake that off for tonight. I'm still pretty confident in John Delaney, but right now I'm just kind of blown away by how solid of a run Bryson Hickenbaugh has had here. I mean, we just got out of that caution, 10 laps ago, and he's already pulling out a 1.3 second gap. He's just absolutely dominating.
Well, and you know, this makes sense when you think about it. So, not in the league, but rather on the Coke side of things, Bryson Hickenbaugh is a member of Team Conti. He works very closely alongside Adam Benefield, Michael Conti, a few other drivers there. So Benefield, we already mentioned how dedicated he is to winning this race. James pointed it out. He didn't question it. He didn't say, I'm going to try to win. He didn't say, I want to win. He said, I'm going to win. And when Adam Benefield says he's going to win, that is a promise he does his utmost to keep. And that means working on the car. That means putting in a ton of practice and building the most optimal setup you possibly can to get every little bit of speed out of that car that you could possibly squeeze out. And so if Adam Benefield has put in that time, which I know he has, and he's got this amazing setup underneath him, well, guess who's also got that setup? His teammate, Bryson Hickenbaugh.
The interesting thing about that, though, is if Hickenbaugh's running the same setup as Benefield, and we can probably guarantee that he is running it, right? I think from a team point of view, where Adam is, whether or not we're looking at Adam pulling out maybe, or how can I put it, not going as fast as he could do to slow the pack up to allow Bryson out front, who knows? We don't know if that's what's actually happening, or just if unfortunately Bryson is absolutely just flying. But one of the things I want to point out, and we didn't do this at the start of the show actually, is whether or not who we believe out of the 4 drivers in the championship, who's actually going to take the championship. Now, I've got my little notebook down here and I've written down my choice. You know, I think, guys, we need to put some names on the board. Who we think is going to run away with this. Michael, what do you reckon?
Well, I know that every time I speak, we get a caution.
Well, there you go. We're under another one. So it's all down to Michael this evening, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm the one. 3 out of the 4 we've had tonight have been as soon as I started talking. As we go back to the replay here, we're going to see what exactly brought that caution flag out. We see the 77 car getting a little love tap from the 40 there and able to keep it out of the wall. Yep, no, that was a good save there. Doing a little pirouette, but yeah, unfortunate there. Yeah, that is...
Damien A. Sorenze is not making very many friends tonight. That is the second near identical incident. And both times, it seems like it was the same incident. He just slides up, hits the quarter panel. I'm not sure if he's just over driving or what's going on, but I can tell you that if that happens again, he will be removed from the session. I believe there is a 3 at-fault system where if you wreck a guy 3 times and it is pretty provably your fault, you're done. So he's going to have to be careful. But here comes everybody down pit road. Now, we are on lap 55 out of 312. So even if we go back green to race to the stage caution, they will now most likely not be pitting for the stage caution. That is why the playoff drivers of Bryson Hicks and and I believe one other driver came down as well. It may have been Delaney. I couldn't quite make him out on this. Yep, there he is right there, Jonathan Delaney. But some of the regular drivers that, they're not in the playoffs, they stayed out. They want to get those stage points that still matter to them. And it's going to kind of shuffle this field up. But James, I'm going to hand it off to you because I'm going to quickly pop up into the admin chat, see if that was the end of this stage or not, and I'll be back.
Yeah, no worries. Right, Michael, you haven't told me who you think is going to win. Who's going to take the championship?
That's because as soon as I started talking, we got a caution.
Right,
now, I know... Okay, I know that you're going with Matt Long. You already discussed that. You made that clear. I think I'm going to have to go with Delaney. Bryson Hicks has had, obviously was just absolutely dominant right there just a moment ago, but I find it hard to bet against John Delaney. I really do. Lucas Weitzman also solid, but him and Matt Long, they came in, they pitted, they're back at 21st, 22nd right now. Bryson Hicks John Delaney, 18th and 19th. These drivers are so close together. It's pretty uncanny how close they are. So I'm going to have to go with Delaney.
All right, Andre, who are you going for?
Andre, is he back?
Yep,
Yeah,
I'm back. So I'm going to probably go with, okay, here's the thing. I own one of these cars. Lucas Weitzman drives for LMM. I feel like if I didn't pick him, there may be some discussions had at the shop afterwards. So,
ouch, yeah.
So I'm picking Lucas Weitzman.
All right, Carlos, come into the booth. Who are you picking for this one, buddy?
All right, my mic is hot. I got to say, I really do think Delaney's going to get this done. I know he's already been picked, but really, he's the only person I do think can get it done right now.
All right, so we've got two Delaneys, one Matt Long, and Andre is tied into Lucas Weitzman, whether or not he likes it or not. Brilliant.
So just a quick update from the admins. I want to point out that was not the end of the stage. We're going to go green, and then we will have our scheduled caution at lap 6. Anyways, go ahead and take it away as scheduled, Michael.
Yeah, so we're going to have a green-white checkered, it looks like here, almost. Lap 57 will be coming around for 58. So we see the field being led by Adam Benefield on the outside lane, RJ Root on the inside lane. We're going to see him coming down here, going through the Geico restart zone momentarily. They're going to get on the gas. We'll be away again. And I think something that we all got to, kind of agree upon. You've already talked about it a little bit, but I would not be surprised to see Adam Benefield win this race tonight. At all. It would not surprise me at all. As we're back to green, RJ Root taking us out there, getting a strong run. And as soon as I say that, Adam Benefield dropping to third. Is Murray coming in second place there. And away we go.
Real quick, I want to circle back around to something that we were talking about earlier. I feel like we've had some good conversations going that have been really interrupted by cautions on several occasions tonight. But I want to go back to what you guys were saying about Adam Benefield. In particular, I think it was Michael questioning, or no, it was James, I'm sorry. Does he maybe check up the field for Bryson Hicks? Does he maybe try to shift the tides in his favor? First of all, I'm going to say I don't think he does that. I think Adam is like, all right, Bryson, if you win this championship, that's great for you. But also, I'm going to win this race for Jimmy. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. Second, the thing I wanted to point out, when it looked like he was kind of holding up the field. So the thing about Adam, throughout the history of his career in this league, and the thing that I've always pointed out about him is that he's the kind of guy that he'll show up with a car that is capable of 27 4-lap times, let's say, okay? And for the first 3/4 of the race, he runs 27/8. He keeps that 4/10 in his pocket, and he doesn't want anybody to know that he has them. So what we see from him early on is very rarely indicative of what he's actually capable of.
Can I just point something out to you as well? Is Adam's been in chat in YouTube, and we're under caution. We're in stage caution now. Adam's been in chat, right? Now, what I said about it, he has literally just put the 63 will win the championship. Now, the 63 is Bryson Hicks, bro. What I'm saying here is Adam may have slowed down the pack for Bryson to take the lead, right? Now they're in this different position. Adam's up front, Bryson's further back. They've got to get these positions swapping out. Now, my prediction for this race is, yes, I picked Matt Long because I think Matt Long's going to do it. Nobody has picked Bryson at all. I think this is going to happen, right? And I've got my little crystal ball and I've got my Mystic Meg hat on, and I'm here with my bells ringing off my hair. I think Adam is going to slow down the pack, right? Enough for Bryson to take the lead. The last 2 or 3 laps, right, they're going to swap. Adam's going to win this race in Phoenix because he told us he was going to. Bryson's going to win the championship, and that's all going to happen round about lap 308.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. I just don't agree with you saying that Benefield's going to hold up the field. I think Adam Benefield is just going to be out there in it to win it and just try to get up there as quickly as he can and just completely dominate as much as he can. I find it really hard to believe that he would hold the field up at any point just to get his driver up there. Obviously, it's they're all teammates here, but I think if Bryson Hicks is going to be, I think if Bryson's going to be the winner, I think it's going to be on merit. I don't think it's going to be because Adam Benefield held the field up.
Now, since you guys are relatively new to the league, I get to tell a story I think that I love telling, because if you had told me at any point a year and a half ago that Adam Benefield would be building a setup and working to ensure a championship for Bryson Hicks, I'd have said, you're crazy. Because, see, Bryson's a very clean driver, very middle of the road, kind of keeps his head down. He's fast, but he's not necessarily overly aggressive, and he's not the most talkative driver. That's why they call him the robot or the alien. He just kind of shows up, drives fast, doesn't get involved in too much drama. Adam Benefield was the first driver in this league that I can recall that Bryson flat out hit. He caught up to him on track and he spun him out. And the reason that he did that was because Adam was constantly just pushing and rubbing on the 63, constantly spinning him out, giving him bumps here and there, moving him up the track, just racing him really hard. And finally Bryson was like, I've had enough of it. I'm done. And see, back then, when it was all happening in real time, I'm thinking, man, why is Adam racing him like that? I never understood it. And they did have a bit of a rivalry going for a while that obviously has quelled now. But I see now that the reason Adam raced him like that, it was out of respect. He knew that Bryson was fast. He knew that Bryson was a formidable foe. And he knew that Bryson could take those bumps. He knew that when he put the bumper to Bryson wasn't going to wreck his car. He wasn't going to be DNF'd. Because even if he spun around, he was going to catch it, right? It was more so, I know you're fast, I know you're tough, I'm gonna make my presence known, and we're gonna do this thing. And so it's just been fun to watch these two throughout the history of the league here.
Yeah, well, Adam's back in chat. I'm not gonna hold anyone up. Lol, I'm here to win. I don't doubt that you're here to win, Adam. And I got the pleasure of talking to you last week, and I fully think you're gonna be up near the top because your determination will win through. I just think that you might help Bryson a little bit, and we're only 65 laps in. I'd like to point out as well that my pick is sitting in 4th place right about now. After being down in 10th, guys, with your doubts and voices coming in, I'd like to point out that he is sitting in 4th. So keep doubting Matt Long. He's going to be there at the end.
Nobody is doubting Matt Long. Nobody is doubting Matt Long. Just like you're the only person that's saying Adam Benefield is going to hold up the field.
I know, but I'm
this is all the British. This is all the British man just trying to stir the pot.
Hey, we've got to make some good arguments in the booth.
Just saying. I'm just saying. This is all on you. But, we're coming around here to Geico Restart. And once again, we're going to have RJ Root taking us out here. John Delaney getting a good start into 2nd place. Cam Stone falling off a little bit on the outside, getting shoved up into the middle. He's going to drop back, try to hold on to 3rd position. But RJ Root out there crushing it, getting a great start there. That's going to be John Delaney and your boy Matt Long up in the 3rd place.
Now, I mentioned a little bit how the rivalry between Bryson and Adam had resolved itself, and they actually grew to respect each other and work together. Another instance, I would say, of that is with Jonathan Delaney, except instead of just quelling one rivalry, I feel like he has started to win over the field as a whole. A year or two ago, with how aggressive he was and some of the things he was doing on track, there were a whole lot of people that had it in their minds on Saturday night. I'm not going to let John win. He's done enough to make me angry that, you know what, if it comes down to it, I got to put the bumper to him, I'm going to do it. But he has come such a long way in terms of his racecraft and the amount of respect that he shows his fellow competitors that I think throughout the course of this season, over 36 weeks, they've seen that transformation. They appreciate it. And John is a lot more respected amongst the field than he used to be. And so this is really the first championship race where I could say, I think John doesn't necessarily have a target on his back, which is probably a weight off his shoulders as he is currently leading ahead of his teammate in the 97, who, by the way, Matt Long did say he would race John harder than anybody else in the field solely because he was his teammate. So this may get a little interesting here.
Oh, let's hope so. You know what I mean? Let's hope so. But what they say about, you know, what you were touching on earlier with Delaney and the way he's been amongst his peers and everything else, there's a saying that I literally live by practically is what you put out into the world you get back, right? I'm a very positive person. I'm always positive about most things. You know, obviously somebody annoys you, it's a different story. But we try and be as positive as possible. If Delaney's come into this season and gone with a different attitude altogether, he needs to be respected for that. Because the saying normally says is the leopard doesn't change their spots, right? But clearly, if Delaney was a leopard, he's now turned himself into a tiger because he's got stripes. You know, he's done a good job on what his attitude and what his personality has come across and how he's come across as an individual to everybody in the field. And I think at the end of the day, he needs to be respected for that. I can't see Long, Hicks and Bryant, Medeiros, Hoisma, any of these guys in this field turning around going, if Delaney's behind me, he's going two places. One is going in the wall or one is going down on the inside. Never going to happen. But I still think that Delaney has to be respected of what he's achieved so far this season. Pro license, racing to be in the Cup Series, the Coke Series. You know, he's done enough out of his own being, as well as his attitude towards everybody else, to deserve the respect that he can get at the moment.
As we follow along here, we got the triple cam going. We got John Delaney down there in the right corner, and we're following along in his car. But you know, he's just been calm, cool, collected all season long. He just seems very confident, very in control. I really don't think that incident with his race the other night is having any effect on him right now, as he's, you know, out to the lead and looks very comfortable with his teammate right behind him. Both of them kind of getting out to a bit of a gap on Bryson Hicks and so I'm not surprised at all to see John Delaney up front, and I'm not surprised at all that he's so calm, and cool, and collected. Just look at his face right now. He just looks like he is just in the zone.
Yeah, very collected, and I think you have to be. I mean, to be a successful race car driver, there's got to be some level-headedness to it. Obviously, you're never going to be able to get rid of nerves entirely. You're never going to be able to completely kill your own anxiety or excitement or whatever. Like James said, if you can, then there's something wrong with you. But if you can suppress it to a certain level, and you can be in the situation where you're leading the race, you've got your teammate behind you, you know that he's going to be pushing really hard to get this championship. But hey, you got 0.3 of a second. You've shown that you're just as fast, if not faster. There's no reason to panic yet. We're on lap 75 out of 312. You can keep that calm. That's going to be a big benefit. The other thing that's going to be a big benefit to John right now is clean air. And we haven't really talked about that tonight, but at these flat tracks, clean air can make a difference. It's not quite like going to 1.5 miles, such as Texas or Chicagoland or anything like that, but it still plays a part. And if you have nobody in front of you creating turbulent air, your car is going to feel better than it otherwise would. We saw Bryson Hicks get out to a pretty sizable lead when he was out front. Now, like you pointed out, Michael, the leaders are kind of driving away from him a little bit here. He's a second back from our leader. And the only thing that's changed isn't the setup, isn't the track temp. What's changed is he's a little bit further back in the field. He doesn't have that clean air. Now, the yellow flag flies Dalton Mobley again. And unfortunately, Dustin Hall with his second incident of the night. Let's take a look at a replay, see exactly what happened.
Yeah, it looks like Mobley looked like he ran out into the wall, and is that car number 40? Is that Acquienza again?
Yeah. I don't know if that was on him though. It looked like this Dalton Mobley kind of came up at the end. If we get another replay at that, the first two definitely seemed like he was, giving a little bit of a love tap at that time. Yeah, the 77 kind of just pushed him into the wall there. And Dustin Hall
Okay.
just
I
unfortunately.
see what happened there. That was
Yeah.
retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
The 77 come up the track and pretty much cleaned out the 40. Problem was he did not have that move lined up at all, and he had no regard for the fact that there was a whole pack of cars behind him. And that is, listen, I'm all for getting a guy back eye for an eye. If he spins you out, give him a bump, whatever. But you got to be smarter than that. You can't clean somebody out and cause a pileup right in front of the field. As we do go on board, check this out. I mean, just nowhere to go, trying to slow the car down, and what an evasive maneuver. We're going slalom racing, boys. He's able to get through.
Carl Ammon showing us what to do. Now, I want to touch on that, right? I obviously, the world of NASCAR and everything else is kind of relatively new to me here. Are we really saying that Dalton Mobley has gone out into Accidenza under suspicious circumstances? I find, if this was happening towards the end of the race, then maybe we could look at it. But 78, 79 in a car that's unpredictable, a wall right next to him, not really sure how this is going to pan out. And if he is going to do it, he's not going to go full side to side, right? He's going to go a little bit off the rear quarter, one side or another, and he's going to go round on his own. I can't see a full side to side contact really going through Dalton's head at that specific time.
I think if anything, that was a little more frustration if that's the case than just trying to get him back. It looked like he definitely did attempt to put him into the wall there. If you really want a history lesson, go look up Dale Earnhardt Sr. They called him the Intimidator for a reason. But yeah, no, I think that was just Dalton Mobley just letting his frustrations get in the better of him. Unfortunate incident, but it is what it is. And Dustin Hall getting collected in that, it's just an unwitting bystander there. It's unfortunate for him, really frustrating for him. So it is what it is. Because we see Delaney and Long still out front here, and we still have the pace truck out, but those lights will be turning off momentarily.
Yeah, I've seen enough racing in my day. Generally, I can kind of eye up what happened, and I would say that was definitely Dalton trying to make the maneuver. He just didn't do it in the ideal way. James is right. It would have been smarter to go for the quarter panel, give him a nudge. There were better ways to go about it, but it really looked to me, just by the movement of the car, that he just he juked to the right, and he wasn't chasing it up. It wasn't loose beforehand. He just kind of doored him up to the right. I think what he didn't intend on was the way that the netcode actually made his own car react, which then kind of slid him back up a second time into Accidenza, which then put himself in the wall and caused all the chaos that happened. So I'm not saying it was suspicious circumstances. I'm saying it was that way, as Jonathan Delaney is going to lead him to the green through the Geico restart zone. On the outside, his teammate Matt Long is going to get a healthy draft with the help of a few non-playoff drivers, as well as Lucas Weitzman, who's going to be trapped on the high line here. Bryson Hicks behind Matt Long, so this is kind of the same playoff running order we saw on that last stint before the caution, and now they're going to have to get another chance to sort it out, as on the outside of Bryson Hicks you've got Devin Medeiros. That's kind of a surprising face to see up front. Obviously, we know he's capable of winning. He did just barely win his way into the playoffs. He was then eliminated in the round of 16. But ever since he was eliminated, he's not been racing quite as much, and maybe hasn't had the pace. But here at Phoenix, look at this. Pretty good run so far for that number 20.
Yeah, sometimes the big event stirs drivers on, doesn't they? And I think from Devin Medeiros, we had the pleasure of being there, me and Michael, when he did take that victory. And I think at the end of the day, I think, Devin's here for the show, right? It's the final event. I want to touch on Dan Fields and YouTube, not convinced that was retaliation. Just saying, putting it out there, stirring the pot up. But I think from Devin's point of view, he's got the right to be here. He's going to give it a go. Did get knocked out, as you say, in the round of 16. But I think sometimes, it's like a football player turns up for the cup final, or, a quarterback turns up for the Super Bowl. I'm not saying Medeiros is going to go and win. I'm just saying that sometimes they turn up and put on a show, and clearly Medeiros is doing that at the moment.
Yeah, he definitely had a strong run going. I believe it was last week before he got taken out in an incident. I'm pretty sure he was up towards the front of the field there actually for a little while last week at Martinsville, if I'm not incorrect. But he was involved in an incident that kind of ruined his race. And then he did fight his way back up. So Medeiros does have pace. We do know he has pace, obviously winning that one race to get himself into the championship at the very last opportunity that he had. And just seeing his consistency, it's been kind of up and down throughout the championship here, but he's definitely got the pace to be able to, hold his own. We see Delaney, Long, Hitzenbaugh, and Weitzman all in the top 5, with Adam Benefield, the only one that is in the top 5 that isn't in the championship, who called himself he's going to win this race.
Did indeed call it. Now, I do want to point out, as we have kind of single filed out, there's a little bit to talk about in terms of off-track action. We are in the midst of silly season. Drivers are leaving teams for new teams, sometimes even creating new teams altogether. There's been a lot of negotiations, a lot of trade-offs going on. There are a few drivers up in the top 20 that are going to be going to new teams or coming back to previous teams. Robert Miller, for example, has had an interesting season. So Robert Miller started the season for LMM. He's still a co-owner for LMM. He just doesn't drive for them because he was deployed overseas, was not going to be able to run enough races to make the playoffs, so he opted to hire a driver to replace himself on the team. And as far as he's aware, the news that he's received is that he will be around to race the majority of races next year. So he's planning on going full time. So that'll be interesting to see what he can do with his team and what kind of points he can score. Because, I mean, look at this right here. He's only ran a handful of races, and here he is in the top 10, driving essentially for nobody but himself. Very impressive run. And Ralph Hutchison, another driver right behind him. He started this season racing for LVR. The team that is currently leading the championship with John Delaney up front. Ralph and LBR decided to mutually go their separate ways. So Ralph's another driver who was a free agent. I'm pretty sure will be going to a new team next year. And Jason Taylor in the top 20. He is going to a newly formed team. Well, not technically a newly formed team. It's a new team under an old name. The number 12 is going to be shifting hands as well. So a lot of silly season action going on. And I think Daytona is going to be pretty crazy to see, because we're going to see a lot of drivers that we're used to seeing under a certain banner with a certain number and a certain paint scheme that are going to be shifting all around. So that'll be fun. Up front, though, back to the on-track action. Bryson Hicks has claimed second from Matt Long, who's dropping a little bit further back. You can see him top of your screen. There's Lucas Weitzman, who is currently behind Matt Long. But it's a two-horse race right now, guys.
For now, we're on lap 91. We've still got a long way to go. I think, yeah, you're right. Delaney, Brute, Hicks, Benefield are kind of making their moves and showing the field really, hey guys, here's our exhaust pipe. Have a look at this. But I think that as the race comes in, and Delaney, we've seen him. He's sat confidently. He's doing the business behind his wheel, and he's happy and everything else. He's currently out in front. The gap is 3 tenths. Will it come down? Absolutely, definitely. Are we going to be getting to the point where if this run carries on, we're going to be seeing green flag stops? Absolutely. That's going to juggle things up anyway. I'm not really worried about where anybody is currently at this moment in time. I think we're maybe over speculating what's going on this early on. I think at the end of the day, we know, and we've seen enough races to know, anything can happen. The last 10 laps is where it really kicks off in these races, and I think that's the positioning of where we're worried about it. If we were sitting back here on lap 302 and we had Delaney down in 20th, then I think we can doubt that Delaney's going to try and win this with 10 laps left, right? But I think because of where they are currently at the moment, I don't think we need to panic. Like, yeah, Long's dropped down the field, he's 1.86 seconds back. We know from experience that we're not going to go full race distance on green because of things that happen. And I think from that point of view, we just need to not worry as such about where they are. I think it's how they're going to be positioned towards the end of the race. I think that's going to be important.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. We're going to start coming into some green flag pit stops here. That's going to really shake up the order and start throwing, everything on the board. And strategy is just really going to become really important if we stay green here. John Delaney losing out. Does that say 6,185?
I did not know that we were racing the 24 hours of Phoenix.
Yeah, no, 24 hours of Phoenix. That's awesome. Coming from one endurance race to another, all about it. Let's go. How many? That's just stage 2. Okay, we're going to be here for the next 3 weeks. Anyways, I wanted to bring up a point, Andre. You talk about the silly season there. I think this league is just so impressive. Not only do they get full fields for 100% distance NASCAR every single week, for not just this race, but for the Friday night race as well. That's in itself 36 weeks out of the year, just absolutely stunning. And then on top of that, just how many different teams are so well and tight-knitly operated that an actual silly season happens on the level that it does, to where it actually matters. Oh, and we see the 46 getting into the wall there. We're going to stay green, but that looked like it hurt. That was definitely not what you wanted to do there. But one of the biggest things that I've been impressed since me and James have come in to, join you guys here is just the way that this 100% Cup Series is just put together from top to bottom. It's just, it really blows me away, the time and the attention to detail and the effort that not only the league operators and owners put in every week, but every driver, every team owner. You got your guys putting in their strategies, they're building the sets. It's just, there's so much that these guys put into this league week in and week out, 36 weeks a year. It just blows my mind.
And that is something that we kind of talked about when we interviewed Matt Long, is just how much time and effort these guys do put in. And it's not just from an administrative side. Of course, the admins do put in a ton of work and a ton of time to make sure that this league runs smoothly and that it is about as close to a real-life racing sanctioning body as humanly possible. And they do a great job of it. But the drivers themselves, too. Just the insurmountable amount of time that you have to put into the sim to be competitive, and these guys do it week in and week out, and it's so much more than just practice and setups too. I mean, a lot of these guys that own teams, right? Every week they've got paint scheme previews, fancy graphics that you would see real life teams posting on Twitter. Except the difference is these guys don't have graphic designers who are just sitting there working around the clock for money to pump these graphics out for them. They're sitting down in between practice sessions, opening up Photoshop, getting the stuff they need, putting it all together, and then putting it out for us to see. They are really, in every sense of the word, managing their own race teams. And it really goes back to the thing we always say about sim racing. The cars aren't real, but the racing sure is.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of, people not knowing what sim racing is, they're not really in tune with what's actually happening. They seem to think we just turn up, race cars, get off track, go, and that's it. It's Gran Turismo rather than iRacing. But I think people don't fully understand it, and they don't understand the time, the effort, the setups, everything that goes into it. And unless you're in the environment, unless you're in the world, we live our own separate world almost in sim racing, where what we do affects others within our world. There's certain things that we do outside of it for family and stuff, but while we're here, what we do affects us, and people don't get that. They don't understand it because they're not in it. It's like if my wife was in a knitting circle, am I going to know what she's talking about when she's dropping this and doing that? I ain't going to have a clue. But it's the same kind of thing with the sim racing. If I talk to her about NASCAR and about the racing and everything, she's going to look at me and go, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Here's a pillow, sleep on the sofa. You're boring me. But, people like that don't get it, and they don't understand the amount of times that people go in. There is the team manager, there is spotters, there is everybody else getting involved with it. And a team isn't just about the RJ Root, the John Delaney, the Cam Stone, the Adam Benefield, they're all a collective working with other people, and people just don't get that. And I think, you know, what this league achieves and how close they get it to real life is just unbelievable. And massive shout out to the admins and everybody here for setting it up, really.
Yeah, I can't agree more, honestly. You bring up Gran Turismo. When I was a kid, Gran Turismo 3 and 4 were my favorite video games ever. I spent so much time playing 3 and 4 in my childhood that it was just ridiculous. But that being said, now that like I'm grown up and I'm like into sim racing, like I'm not part of one of these teams that like, you know, is as intricate as this league is. But I'll tell you one thing, every single week I figure out, you know, what track that the car that I chose to race this season is racing at. I put in the time to practice that track as much as I possibly can. If it's an open setup, I do as much tweaking as I possibly can. I'm not great with that, so I usually stick with the fixed setups. But, you know, there's people out there that are actually ridiculously good with that. And people just don't understand how much time, you know, the average sim racer puts in. And then you go to these guys. You just take it to that next level, and then the level beyond that, and then the level beyond that. Just the time and the patience and the consistency and the effort everybody here puts in. It's just absolutely amazing what they can achieve. And I'm, you know, like I said earlier, I'm just absolutely blown away.
Speaking of blown away, RJ Root has blown the field away. He's 3.6 seconds up the road from the rest of the field. Right behind him, he's got his team owner, Cam Stone. Where did this speed come from? I mean, RJ's been fast all night, don't get me wrong. He's been kind of dicing it up with the leaders, but I don't think we've seen anybody get this far ahead as the 7th caution of the night flies. And I'm curious to see what happened here. I'm seeing the 00 of the Marsican bottomless key and Ryan. See what happened here. The number 18 machine down on that yellow line, and around she goes. The 12 gets collected. Jason S. Taylor, number 9, Princeton, trying to get around him as well. But that is something that is different here on the simulator from real life, ladies and gentlemen. Is in real life, there's quite a bit of rubber laid down on the apron in what is currently 1 and 2. So you can race down there. The car is not going to get too slick as we go on board with Kevin Steele. But in the sim, well, there's not a whole lot of rubber down there, and the simulator does consider it a slick racing surface. So when you have that difference in grip, where your right side tires are on the track, where you have all that rubber, and your left side tires are down in the dust and marbles, of course your car is going to get sideways, and it's going to be tough to save, and that is what got him there. So that's why we haven't seen those drivers running that low apron line like we might see on Sunday in real life in NASCAR. The sim just simply does not permit it, and that is a great example why.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, they've got to try and run as close as possible, haven't they? And I think, you know, these guys are going to be looking to try and do that. I think the interesting will be now is where are we likely to be sitting with tyres? You know, they've only got 8 for the race. So I think from that point of view, they kind of need to sit back and really decide what they're going to do. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out.
Yeah, strategy is definitely going to be coming into play here. Number of tire sets that you can save. Now, Andre, you said earlier that it might come down to whoever's able to save that fresh set of tires there toward the end. I think that's really what we're going to be looking at here is who's going to be able to conserve tires from here on out, because we've seen quite a few cautions. We've seen these cars come in a few times now. It's going to be tight down towards the end, and I'm just really curious to see who's going to be able to keep the fresh rubber towards the end of the race.
Yeah, that is the question. Who's going to be able to play it right? And it's such a difficult thing to do, right? Because when you're thinking about, well, should I save these tires or should I not? What you're trying to do, in essence, is you're trying to predict how many cautions you're going to get and when you're going to get them. Well, you can make a guesstimate. You can have a rough idea based on how the race has gone. But at the same time, there's always that chance that suddenly the tide shift and the race doesn't even resemble what it used to be. We've had 7 cautions so far in 111 laps. That's generally pretty high for this league. I would say that's above average. But we could go green right now after this restart, and we could not see another caution for the rest of the race. You don't know. You don't have that crystal ball. Maybe James does. I don't know. But most of these drivers don't have the crystal ball. And so when they try to think up this strategy, they're just kind of throwing a wrench at it.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have a crystal ball really, but I think, it's got to be something to think about. We're on lap 111. We've had 7. What are we going to be looking at for the rest of the race? And strategy will play a big part. I think for the top 4, they need to be on fresh tyres right at the end. That's without a shadow of a doubt. They need to be on fresh tyres at the end. And from that point of view, they're going to be looking at saving at least 1 set, maybe 2, for that last 100 laps, I think, because they're going to need them.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be saving these sets, but that being said, they can't save too much because you got to be towards the front of the field at the end of the race for you to have a chance on those fresh tires. So, what's the point of saving too much? So it's definitely going to be a balancing act for these top 4 championship drivers if we see these guys coming down to the Geico restarts line once again.
And it is going to be RJ Root with that incredible speed on the last stint. Let's see if he can carry it into this one. He's going to lead the field as his teammate goes 2 wide with John Delaney. John Delaney, obviously a playoff driver, currently the highest running playoff driver. Bryson Hicks dropping back to 5th on that restart. Lucas Weitzman and Matt Long are other 2 playoff drivers. They are currently 7 and 8. Weitzman just barely getting out ahead. They are side by side back there for position. RJ Root sails into what is now 3 and 4 with John Delaney working his way to the bottom. And I like that move by John. He was able to get to the bottom, which I think right now is a preferred line. It's certainly the line that's going to save your tires. He didn't allow himself to get trapped up high. I also want to point out for the viewers, because I'm just now realizing this may be a little confusing. The playoff drivers, 3 of them are red, 1 of them is orange. The original idea on that graphic was that they'd all have different colors, and it was their choice what they wanted. It just so happens that 1 driver chose orange, the other drivers chose red, but they're all playoff contenders. Don't be too confused by the graphic.
Yeah, they are a little bit different. Me personally, I would have been sitting there with a bright yellow one. Yellow's my thing, yellow's my colour, I love like yellow. I would have been sat there with a yellow one. But as I say, they were supposed to match the cars, but 3 of them do have red cars. So, maybe we could have picked a different one. Boston's out again, 8th. Devin Medeiros. Yeah, and we'll have a look back and see what he's been up to. As he's alongside where car 83 is Adam Benefield. Whoa! Did Benefield hit the wall? Can we get from his point of view? Because it looked like Benefield was going round then. He's on the right hand side there. He comes in with contact in front. Oh, just couldn't quite see. There we go. Now we'll have a look and see if Benefield did hit the wall.
Ooh.
Goes. Oh, he did.
Yeah, he just a little love tap, but yeah, that was definitely into the wall there for Adam Benefield. See if there's any damage for him, but yeah, no, that's definitely contact there. Medeiros just lost it and didn't have any place to go.
No, he got contact behind.
Oh yeah, you're right. He got bumped from behind. I didn't see that at first.
Yeah, definitely got tagged there, and just kind of a stack-up effect. Now, I'm a little concerned with that contact for Benefield. We see him on pit road right now, getting some of that damage buffed out. We saw, back at the Roval, you'll both remember, Jonathan Delaney broke a toe link with, I'd say, far less substantial contact to the wall than that. Now, granted, the wall that Delaney hit was concrete. It was not a safer barrier, but we know the toe links are pretty soft on this car. They're not exactly very stout, so hopefully Benefield's able to get back out there.
Yeah, that will, from his point of view, would be guttering if he couldn't get out. I'm not going to lie. He would be fuming with every bone in his body if he could not get back out on track. And I think we've just got to hope, for Adam's point of view, he can. Yeah? But Rob Stone in YouTube did say, yeah, he got pushed, and it did look like he got a gentle nudge there, Devin Medeiros. So let's hope Adam Benefield can get back on track. He did get a nudge, but at the moment he's been in the pits for 1 minute 50 seconds. So hopefulness, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, if he can get that damage fixed, maybe get a lucky dog here and get himself back on the lead lap, chances are he's got an opportunity here, but he's definitely got to get that car on track as soon as he possibly can with the least amount of damage as possible. But, Andre, you're right. We saw at the Roval, you look at the toe link the wrong way, it breaks. It can be so fragile. Luckily, these are the safer barriers, so they have a little bit more give, but yeah, that's just, frustrating there. Medeiros getting bumped, and then, Adam Benefield just being the unlucky guy in front of him, and, and then going around straight into the wall there. Just, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of that when you got so many cars jam-packed into a confined area. And especially with the amount of restarts we've had, these guys have not really had too many opportunities tonight to stretch their legs and to get out away from everybody else. Really, I think in a long race like this, especially at a flat track where you're really working the steering wheel and it can be very physically exhausting, the best thing that you could hope for is a long run where the cars behind you fall away and the cars ahead of you pull away, and you're just kind of in your own little bubble. There's nobody to worry about. You just click off your laps. And that's only happened one time. And even in that one really long green flag run we had, we didn't see a whole lot of separation. The field actually stayed pretty compact for the amount of time that they were racing. So I imagine that those kinds of incidents are just going to be pretty commonplace with this style of racing as we work our way through 3 and 4. Pace Truck has long since pulled off pulled off the race surface into pit road, and it is going to be Cam Stone in 57 leading his teammate RJ Root. It's a bit of a flip-flop on the order there. It was RJ leading the boss man last time. Now it's the boss man out front. Bryson Hicks taking the lead of the championship from the number 6 for the moment. He's just got a nose on him down low, and it brings an interesting conversation point here, James. So earlier you mentioned, maybe we're overanalyzing where the playoff drivers are. We're only on lap 100. You're partially right, but if you're not battling now, you're not going to be up front later. So these guys got to be at each other's throats, I would say.
Yeah, well, okay, maybe I'll give you that. I think, having nearly 190 laps still left of this circuit may differ from what we're saying. I'd like to point out as well, Adam Benefield is back out on track and he is up and running, so that's great news for him. However, he is literally about to lap down, so hopefully he'll be able to get his lap back. But I still think it's still a little bit early. I think if we were later on, I do get it, and maybe I'm looking at it in a completely different way. I don't know. Maybe because I'm British, I haven't seen much of NASCAR. Hey, bring me in. I'll stir the pot up for you. It's fine. But I think that from Long's point of view, he can still move. We've seen him all the way up into second place. We know pit stops are going to play a part. Hickenborough as well is in third. Delaney fourth. Hoisman fifth. Hoisman in sixth. So all 4 are in the top 10. And with the things that have been happening, I think all 4 have got a chance to win. I'm still going for Long, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we should all have a bet on it or something. But I think at the end of the day, we're a little bit early in. I'm still hopeful that by later we might be able to get it.
Yeah, see, you're right. It is still early, but this is the meat of the race. This is where we're starting to get into the strategy here. This is where conserving your tires and not burning up that extra set is going to come into play. This is where all the mistakes that you make in the race are going to, they're going to be brought out in this section of the race right here. This is where everybody needs to focus the most, because if you make any mistakes right now, if you use too many tire sets right now, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot for later on. But if you're too cautious right now, you're going to fall back into the pack. Yeah, sure, you'll have some fresh rubber later, but you might be too far back at that point, This is the time where the decisions have to be made. You can't be too cautious. You can't be overly aggressive. You have to conserve your tires, but you have to leave yourself with tires at the end of the race. This is where those decisions are made. This is that point in that race. And I think, coming from here on, we have the 185, and then we'll be done with our stages. I think this is the most important stint in the race at this point, is I think right now.
Well, the way I view a race is the house of cards. So, obviously, when you build a house of cards, the goal is to have a complete tower, and you want to place those last 2 cards at the very top. That is your primary goal. However, while the other cards may seem insignificant, if one of those cards is wobbly, if one of them is not secured properly, if it has been misplaced, if you made a mistake with the first card out of 200, well, before you get to that 200th card, that little mistake earlier on, that first card, that's what unravels it all. So when I'm saying that, these guys are up here, they're battling, this is where they're at, this is the momentum they have, I'm speaking in terms of anything that happens now is going to have a domino effect. It could potentially crumple the tower later, or it could lead to putting that tower topper on it.
Yeah, I think, I think that's the thing from looking at it is basically they may have now hopefully got past the yips that we were talking about earlier on, right? And they've settled down. Bryson's in third, Delaney 4th, Weitzman 6th, Long's now in 8th. Hopefully they've settled this down now, and I think that is now on them to prove what they can do as drivers. And yeah, if one card's out of place, it may go wrong. If one tire selection that they've taken may go wrong, and they don't have anything till later on. But I think that they've got to really get into the meat of the race. They've got to grab it by the horns and go for it. And I think just because they're not where we're expecting them, the front 4 to be battling backwards and forwards, yeah, it'd be great for us to see Hicks, Delaney, Weitzman, Long taking top 4, and they're just swapping positions for the whole race. But we know it doesn't work like that, and I think these guys know it doesn't work like that. I don't think any of them are going to be panicking yet. Maybe 250, 280 might be a different story, but I think right now they're just settling in and just keeping it on the black stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely not the time to panic, that is for sure. Any mistake that you make right now could be a domino effect towards the end of the race. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that we're not seeing them 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is throwing in so much more, strategy. There's so much more that could go wrong here. Seeing with, Cam Stone and RJ Root out front kind of dominating here at the moment. Bryson Hicks really starting to come into his own as well, pulling out a little bit of a lead on John Delaney there. But yeah, no, this is definitely, you can't make any mistakes here, but you can't be overly cautious. This is that point. I find it hard to believe that anybody here, any of these championship drivers, are really dealing with the yips at any point at this race, at this time. So I think they're going to be all kind of just focused from here on out and just ready to go. It looks like we're having a nice clean run here. We're starting to get a little stretched out. And as soon as I say that, I'm going to pass it off to you, Andre, because every time I say something, we get a yellow flag.
Well, luckily I think we broke that curse, Mike, because the last few it's been me or James talking and it comes out. But yeah, we've definitely been interrupted a few times by these yellows. And right now, just looking at the front of the field, I am seeing a certain level of calm from all these guys. We've kind of single filed out mostly throughout the field. And we've reached this point a few times where everybody's been able to get single file, but the thing is they never quite get away from each other. And I mean, look at this train at the top of your 3-wide TV multicam. You've got Matt Long, Robert Miller, Ralph Hutchison, all these drivers just bumper to bumper and not really giving themselves much room for error. And going back to that stack up we saw that put Adam Menafield a lap down, this is the kind of environment that breeds that kind of stack up. Let's say you've got Robert Miller or Lucas Weitzman in front of this train, right? Lucas Weitzman gets a little bit loose into the corner. He kind of panics, stabs the brakes. Well, nobody behind him has time to react. And the brakes in these cars are pretty notoriously sluggish compared to the previous generation of car. So that just really adds to it. And so this sort of freight train racing, it looks calm and it looks safe, but it can definitely be deceiving. I mean, just ask Adam.
Yeah, I think, one incident, one accident in front of these is going to take the whole lot out, right? We can clearly see that. It only takes one of the guys from the top to come spinning across the bottom, and the guys behind are going to try and avoid both of them, and it's just all going to go wrong. You know, I've seen it this weekend in another series that I did. A guy would come back onto the track. Next thing you know, I've got a 12-car pile-up. We're trying to decipher about who was to blame and how it all worked out. But that's the thing. You know, as long as they are keeping it sensible, I don't think we need to worry. I think what has happened previously as well is we've seen them going left, and we've seen them going right, and we've seen them rubbing, and then we've seen them coming back, dropping off, pushing forward, going in, going out, showing the bumper. You know, and it's when at that point where they're going to nip to the left that they catch the right quarter, and you know, there's none of that. And I think that's where we're kind of seeing the nice calm racing what we expect at the moment, because there isn't this aggressive moving left, moving right, going forward, coming back, pushing him, not pushing him, you know, and they're not trading paint. And I think that's the important thing. If they were close and trading paint, yeah, I'd be worried, because I can see this going into the big one. But the fact that we're not, and it's not like that, it's not aggressive actions from the cars, I don't think at the moment we really need to panic.
Andre, I'm gonna have to go ahead and agree with you. Right now, it seems like everything's kind of going smoothly as we see Heitman kind of blinking a little bit. So hopefully he's able to get that kind of squared away there. But all it's going to take right now is for somebody to have to check up, and for the car behind them or 2 cars back not have the time to react. So yeah, like you said, this seems like a very calm kind of portion of the race, and we're more than happy that we're getting these green flag laps in, and we might make it here to the end of the stretch here. It's going to be close, but they might make it on fuel without having to do any green flag pit stops. But as we're seeing this calm, cool, collective racing, it almost could feel almost like the calm before the storm, you know, because I mean, it could just take one person to get a little loose, one checkup, then, you know, car behind, 2 cars behind, 3 cars behind, they just have no place to go. We've already seen it a couple times tonight.
And to be fair, I mean, that's motorsport, not just stock car racing, but Formula One or Australian V8 cars or touring cars or really any form of motorsport. Things can look like they're going one way, and everything could be perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden, something happens. You know, maybe it's an equipment failure, maybe it's just a minor mistake that just balloons up into something more. But right now, luckily, on a bit of a green flag run, and it's stayed that way for a while. So I'm going to knock on wood and say, you know, I hope this green flag run continues, and I'm sure these drivers do as well. Bryson Hicks and Boss still leading the championship battle, but not by much over the course of this run. Jonathan Delaney has stayed at his bumper, only about a 10th back from Hicks and Boss. Non-playoff driver behind them, Alex Murray, and he is separating the top 2 playoff drivers from Lucas Weitzman, who himself is only separated from long by Miller, who is co-owner of Lucas Weitzman's car. So, you know, we talked a little bit about team orders. Got to wonder if maybe Miller's not playing a little bit of roadblock for Matt Long, trying to keep him from getting up to Lucas Weitzman.
Yeah, I suggested that earlier on with Adam Benefield and Bryson Hicks. You know, we don't know, let's be real, what's going on. We don't know that if that is taking the place. We don't know that might be taking place. All we know is this is where we're at on lap 144, but it's whether or not Miller is doing that. You know, Long's going to be a little bit more cleverer to that, I would have thought. You know, Matt Long has been around. He knows what people are up to around him. You know, if Rob Stone... You're good?
There's a car on the inside wall.
Okay, no caution currently at the moment, though, so that's always good. Robin Chat has put, come on, Hoytsmart, I got money on this. Yeah, there we go. Hoytsman for the win for Rob. But I think regarding Miller and Long, I think if that is happening, Long will look at making a move, and Long's not going to let himself get too far away from the pack.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call you out. I think there's a difference between what we're discussing here and what you were claiming earlier. I think there's definitely a big difference between, you know, Adam Benefield and your words saying holding up the entire pack to, you know, Miller here just kind of throwing being a little more aggressive on the block for his teammate up ahead of him. I think there's holding up the entire field. Your words.
It's the same thing. Miller's holding up the entire field behind him. What's the difference?
He's not holding up the entire field. He's just
bro.
No, 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 no,
You
no,
may
no,
sit there and
no.
call me out, but bro, what is the
I'm,
difference between Miller? The pack's
I'm
behind
telling
Miller,
you,
right?
I'm telling you,
There's no
I'm
difference.
telling you. What you were claiming earlier, there is a big difference between absolutely just blocking the entire field like you claimed, by somebody who's already come out and said, "I'm gonna win this race." Like somebody that already adamantly said they were going to win the race, so you know that's not the case. Then a team owner blocking a little bit just to keep Lucas Weitzman up a little bit.
There's no difference. None.
In the meantime, we've had Bryson Hicks get around Cameron Stone, and he's actually reeling in RJ Root, so he's trying to lead not only the championship, but also the race if he can get to Root. Now, I got to say, I don't think this top 4, or even really 5, surprises me too much. Cam Stone, of course, being a previous league champion, winning it here at this track. We know the 57 has speed here. Jonathan Delaney, he's fast everywhere. That's not much of a surprise. I think the real standout here is, I would say, RJ. I mean, he's been fast enough to lead a good number of laps tonight, and we know that he's good. We already mentioned earlier tonight that, hey, this guy's been pretty consistently good, and he kind of turns on that switch at weird times. But you got to think, for somebody who was in the playoffs, who was eliminated in the round of 12, he's probably thinking, what could have been? If I had made it to the Final Four, if this was for the championship and I was up here leading this race, what could have been?
Yeah. I suppose from Bruce's point of view, where the fact that he is obviously visually quick, we can see that anyway. He's going to be going for the win tonight as well. I don't think there's going to be any doubt. You can't live in what if, because we can all what if, and we can't. I don't think any of these drivers are what if in. And I think Bruce's point of view is, if he knows what he went back and did wrong, and he's analysed what he's done wrong, he'll move on. He'll come back. They all come back, and they all come back, and they will come back stronger. Hicks and Brat come back. He's come back even stronger than where he was before. Weitzman, never expected to be here. He's here. He's through it. So I think from Bruce's point of view, he'll go back. He'll analyse what he did wrong, know where he goes wrong, but try and not make the same mistake again.
Yeah, I mean, RJ Root has been very consistent here, and he's just been kind of unlucky there in the round of 8, getting to the round of 8. He has been consistent even since then, so it really just was unlucky for him to get knocked out when he got knocked out, because he's got the pace. He does turn it on a couple weird times, like you said, but we know he's got a fast car. We know he's a fast driver. We know he's got the abilities. Maybe this is just going to be, a confidence booster, a stepping stone for next season. It's going to dangle that carrot out in front of him, and he's going to, have the confidence to be like, you know what, I was there, I had the opportunity. I'm not going to play the what-if game right now. I'm going to take this and use it as cannon fodder, stoke the fire for next season and do my best to, win a championship next year, because he's clearly got the ability to be here at the end.
He absolutely does, and I'm glad he caught me there. I said round of 12, I think, slip of the tongue. He was in the round of 8 that he got eliminated from, so he back there, Michael. But, yeah, I mean, you don't want to live in the past too much. You're right about that. You don't want to think, this is just a terrible situation because I could have won the championship. I could have done this. I could have done that. I think you do have to kind of put a more positive twist on it just for the sake of your own sanity. You have to say, okay, you know what? I got eliminated, but I was still fast. I had a car that could have won the race, maybe will win the race. And, yeah, I'm going to carry that forward, especially when you're RJ Root. You're going to be leaving SBR at the end of the season. So, basically, you're going to be leaving SBR in about 150 laps. So, you're not really sure what you're going to be doing team-wise. Your future's a little uncertain. Taking that positive twist on it is definitely, I think, the move to make. But I know sometimes as a driver, it's easy to get lost in your own thoughts and kind of get stuck on that downward spiral that I think any sort of competitor kind of falls victim to now and again.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out as well, we've had Tanner Marty go into the wall. That was what the big puff of smoke was in front of us currently as well. One thing I want to pick up, right, is looking at John Delaney, right? Now, okay, Carlos just took it off. But looking at, this is where Tanner Marty, I think, goes on the inside, and he goes and loses it, goes and hits the wall. He manages to keep it out. We didn't have a caution. well, he just kept it out, and then he's going there. Yeah, so he carries on, drops down onto the inside. You'll see the leaders come past at the top. There you go.
That's close.
Yeah, it was close. He could have had a caution, didn't quite get one. I want to point out one thing, right? Does anybody else looking at John Delaney's video and just thinking he sat with a steering wheel clamped to a desk about now? Because all I'm saying is, yeah, he's in a normal chair. He's not in a rig chair. And I'm just wondering if he's got this. He reminds me like of a guy who just sat there with his steering wheel clamped to a desk and his pedals in front of him on the floor. I don't know. For a pro driver, maybe that's what I'm seeing. But it doesn't look like he's just sat in a normal chair about now.
I'd be willing to bet that if he is sitting in a normal chair, there's not going to be any wheels on that, because I don't know if you've ever tried even on carpet, but
yeah, you go rolling backwards.
Exactly. So if you're trying to hit the brakes there, it's not going to work for you. Now on the ovals, you don't brake as hard as you do on a road course, no matter what kind of car you're going to be in. So it's not going to be as harsh, but still, you got to think there's going to be quite a bit of movement there. So he might be be able to swivel back and forth, but I don't think there's any forward back movement, side to side maybe, but I don't think there's anything forward and backwards.
Maybe Uncle Rob can tell us what he's sitting in, because as I say, that chair has got wheels. I'm surprised. John Delaney has not gone backwards a few times, because, as you say, once you start pushing the pedals, you're going to go back. But just by observation, like, you can see the difference here with Cam Stone's rig. The big old chair in the back, the third monitor in the left-hand side there. So, what Cam's sitting in. But it just looked like, from John's point of view, he's actually just sat with it strapped to his desk, like my little son is doing, with the clamp underneath. And as we can see there, Carlos is duly circled the cable ties again that have now been picked up and sat next to him.
I should point out, the driver who has the highest I rating on all of iRacing twice, he actually made 2 accounts, got to the highest I rating twice. For a number of years, I'd say close to a decade, his rig was a laptop and a Logitech wheel clamped to his desk with a regular wheel. And that was his rig for years, while he was out there dominating the late model side of iRacing, the asphalt late model side of things, as well as some of the NASCAR stock car side of things. Just goes to show, people say sim racing's so expensive. Sim racing it's so tough to get into. You might as well just buy a real car. Well, it doesn't have to be, right? Yeah, there's going to be guys like Cam Stone that go out and they buy triple monitors, and they got a nice racing bucket seat, and they got all this stuff going on, and they can do that if it makes them more comfortable. There's nothing wrong with that. But guys like Jonathan Delaney show you that you don't have to. You can be that guy that's just got a desk chair and a wheel clamped to your desk, and you can go out there and you can make the Final Four.
Yeah, well, I'm in a wooden rig, mate. I built my own. A wooden rig with a G920 strapped to it. Pedals inverted, hooked out of the box and on the side there. And that's what I mean. Yeah, that's exactly. I'm on there from Twitter. Look, that's a chair, pedals on the floor, and what looks like an older Logitech wheel there. Literally just, that's it.
And that's the guy. That's Ty Majeski, who has the highest I rating twice over, and that's the rig he got that I rating with. It's crazy to think.
Incredible. Just, we got a guy who, in one of the series I know that's incredibly quick, and he's just on a G920. There's things you can do to be quick, and and that's what we're looking at. I think if John Delaney is sat in a normal desk chair with the wheel clamped to his desk, fair play. You know what I mean? Fair play to him. But yeah, you don't need to go out and spend thousands on rigs, man. Mine cost me like 40 quid and I built it myself. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I find it very hard to believe that he's going to be sliding around on wheels. I think that's the only thing that I would say. Like, I completely see exactly what you're talking about with Ty Majeski set up there. Just straightforward, he has a chair, literally a folding chair, clamped to the desk on G27, old school pedals, and a beat up laptop from 1990, whatever, just like, obviously you can have a setup like that, and that's obvious. You can make that work. Not everybody's going to be able to do so, but you can make it work. That being said, I find it hard to believe that Delaney's sitting in a chair that has wheels on it. That's all I'm saying. Just because as soon as you touch the pedals, you're going to be moving around, and that's just going to, screw your consistency.
Yeah, I highly doubt it has wheels on it. And if it does, they probably have some sort of locking mechanism. A lot of them have, a little latch that you kind of slide down and it locks it in place. Now, you want to talk about makeshift rigs. When I first started doing iRacing, I had to find a wheel that had paddles that were proportional, because being in a wheelchair, I obviously couldn't use pedals or anything like that. And the only wheel I could find that had paddles that were proportional, so you weren't just using a button for throttle and brake, was a motion wheel. It didn't have force feedback, didn't have a base, nothing. So I took this wheel. I took an old wheelie bar from an old wheelchair, put bearings on this bar, put the wheel on the bearings, and then vice gripped that bar to my desk, and then went on to win a few races that way. It was not ideal. It was not necessarily fun, but sometimes you want to run a race, you just do what you got to do.
Well, that's what I mean. Dan's in chat there. Started off like that in a desk chair, put two of the wheels into shoes so the chair wouldn't move. Worked great. That's the thing. There's ways around everything. I do a series as well, and one of the drivers is in the wheelchair, and he's built his rig to the point where his throttle is in his mouth and his brake is somewhere else, and his brake is actually, I think, behind his head. And there's loads of things that people can do to get involved with sim racing. You've just got to have the how can I put it, the Steelies almost to go and do it, because if he can drive and he doesn't use his hands as such with changing gear and everything else, anybody could do it. If the guy's designing rigs where he's using his mouth to blow into for throttle and that, it's incredible. And I think what people achieve because they want to achieve is amazing. I'm all for it. Go for it. Show me your wackiest rigs I've ever seen, because trust me, I've seen amazing ones.
Yeah, and I know the driver that you're talking about. And that's absolutely insane. The setup, using your mouth like that, just to think about that just blew my mind. But yeah, no, this is something that you can really get into, and you can really just fall in love with. The community, you're gonna have your bad apples anywhere you go, but the community itself is very, inclusive. You can always find somebody that's willing to help you, gain a tent or help set up your build a setup for you. There's always somebody that's willing to help. It's just really impressive what these racing communities can really do to bring people together, and it's just I'm lucky to be able to race all the time when I can. It's awesome, and it's my favorite hobby, and I'm so glad that I got into it, and I know that there are millions of people out there that feel the exact same way, and if not more.
We got a bit of a bottleneck at the front of the field. Bryson Hicks took a long time to be able to work his way around RJ Root. Once he got to the bottom and forced RJ off his preferred line, he immediately dropped back a couple positions, and now he's going to be riding in fourth as Cam Stone goes side by side with John Delaney. Now, Cam Stone, you might be thinking, how hard is he going to race these playoff guys? Is he really going to interfere with this? Yes, he absolutely will. Because first of all, these playoff guys, they don't need to win the race to win the playoffs. All they got to do is be the highest finishing playoff driver. Number two, Cameron Stone is trying to not have his first winless season. He does not want to come out here and finish the race with a giant goose egg on the scoreboard. He wants to grab a win. And this is a track he's fast at. This is a track he's won at before. And now he can see that opportunity, that possibility right in front of him. He's got John Delaney, Bryson Hicks, and he's got a car that's just about as fast as theirs. If some things happen, just kind of fall into his favor, maybe some cautions that get him a good restart to get him out front in that clean air, that could be all the difference. So he's not going to race these guys. He wants to keep himself in position to capitalize on whatever may come.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, is being there or thereabouts towards the end, and I think that's what they've all got to be looking at doing. And, well, good luck to him. We've got 177 laps. I'm excited to see how this goes. John Delaney just had a bit of a slide on there with Cam Stone tucked up right behind him. So let's get it on, boys. Let's get the excitement going. Let's get some messages in chat. Who you think is going to win as well? Because trust me, I think the ending of this race is going to be absolutely incredible.
You say that these championship drivers don't need to win the race to win the championship. But right now, that's not the case. Bryson Hicks is leading this race. John Delaney is in second. You know, it could very well come down to whoever wins this race with these two guys just absolutely blowing through the field here. Lucas Weitzman back in 6th place, Matt Long in 10th place. We know Matt Long's got a strong car, so expect him to get a little bit further up the field here. But I'm still kind of shocked that he's just been sitting back there as long as he has. He did move up into 2nd place earlier, but he's been really quiet all night long.
Yeah, it's been a quiet night for a few drivers, mainly just because it's so difficult to contend with these front runners. I mean, just so much speed out of these guys up front. You can see the gap that they've accrued over RJ since they passed him. You know, RJ was the race leader just a handful of laps ago. Now he's 1.3 seconds back. And right now what I'm seeing is the importance of clean air being put on full display once again. Bryson lingered in 3rd and 4th for how long in this run? Now he gets out in front, clean air, and he's pulling away from John Delaney. He's put him 0.6 of a second back like it's nobody's business. You can see on that graphic right there between Hickenbaugh, Delaney, and Stone. Hickenbaugh has been faster on 4 out of 5 laps than Delaney. Stone kind of mixing it up pretty even there, 2 out of 3 faster for Stone. But that clean air, man, it seems like whoever gets out front, they don't necessarily have it guaranteed. It's not like they're going to be guaranteed, oh, I'm going to hold the lead until a caution comes out. But they do have an advantage. The car definitely looks like it feels better out there.
Yeah, because they've got nothing to interrupt with their airflow, have they? They haven't got that dirty air. The only thing I will say is obviously Bryson is now coming up to the back of some back markers currently as well. They were just at the top of the screen. You can just about see them. So it's going to be interesting to see how the car acts now coming under the dirty air kind of flow, but there's none of that he's got at the moment. And as long as Bryson can keep that with 4 laps left of the stage, there are the back markers in front. I mean, Bryson, you know, as I say, he's going to take the stage win. It makes no difference to Bryson at all. He doesn't get points for it. But at the end of the day, he can still do it. And the fact that they haven't got that dirty airflow is making it even more straightforward, as we see Cam Stone just past John Delaney on the high side there as well. So Cam now moving up into 2nd place.
And this isn't the first time we see Bryson Hickenbaugh not only out front, but just taking a huge huge lead when he gets that fresh, clean air. So not really too much of a surprise there. Cam Stone getting around John Delaney. Lucas Weitzman just making the move. And he's fighting right now for that 4th position with Alex Murray. Lucas Weitzman trying to stay up there as close as he can as we're coming around here with just a couple laps left here in this 2nd stage. Trying to keep his name in the hat. And yeah, it looks like we are going to have a very, very, very epic 3rd stage here tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And look at this on John's face. Ever since Cam got around him, I feel like I'm seeing a little bit more urgency. He's not necessarily panicked, but the expression has changed, like subtly, right? I mean, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one seeing this, right? He looks a little bit more focused, a little bit more like, okay, we got to get this now, because Cam Stone, not even being a playoff driver, gets around him, pulls away. Hickenbaugh has left Delaney and Weitzman in the dust by about a second now. Things are, getting a little bit more intense, I'd say. A little bit of a smile there, so he's not all frowns, not all business, but definitely a bit of urgency.
Yeah, he's going to be that way. I think by the time as the race develops, there's going to be more and more expressions coming out of John Delaney, to be fair. I think, he's got that nice little conservative look, but every time we get to a certain point in the track, he's kind of got his head goes up and he kind of concentrates that little bit more. So he's definitely taking in the surroundings of what's happening within the car itself, because he needs to. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see how this goes. Dan's pointed out in chat, Cam run up that conservative line the entire stage, made up half a second in 6 laps doing it. In the last 6 laps, sorry, half a second in the last 6 laps doing it. So maybe we're starting to see that. We'll see that as we come to the end of stage 2.
Okay, bringing up the end of stage 2 here. Cam Stone is definitely a strong car. We should definitely keep an eye on him to win here. He's got the opportunity here. But yeah, coming to the second stage, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I'm pretty sure most of these cars would definitely come down pit road, get some, yep, there they come, get some fresh rubber, fill up on gas. But from here on out, it's going to be really interesting to see who was able to save those tire sets and how the strategies are all going to pay out for these drivers.
Cam Stone, of course, coming up a little bit short on that stage end, but he was definitely pushing to get around Bryson Hicks and Bod. Now, if he gets a good pit stop, he's going to have a good opportunity. And I'll tell you what, we've not really seen any mistakes on pit road today. Not under caution. We've not had any green flag stops either, so that kind of limits the possibility for pit road mistakes. But I think a lot of these drivers are going to be putting a huge value on nailing their pit stops, getting in as quickly as they can, as safely as they can, not overshooting, not undershooting, not going through too many stalls, not keeping too far to the left, because that is something the league has a rule against. If you stay too far to the left while you're making your way towards your stall, that is a punishable offense, as it does block the view of the drivers. So they're going to be really on point, I think, with their pit stops tonight. And I think the pit road issues are going to come at a premium.
Yeah, you definitely got to be taking these. You can't be taking these pit stops lightly. You don't want to be missing your box. We've seen that a couple times from some of these drivers. But tonight, I think everybody's going to be on tiptoes, on eggshells as soon as they come down pit road. You know, they don't want to make those mistakes. They want to stay out in front, and they want to have a good, clean, solid pit stop. As we see here, Bryson Hicks is going to keep the lead coming out of the pit lane. He is going to be able to start this third stage off up front. Cam Stone right behind him. It looks like John Delaney and Lucas Weitzman are following up behind them. So not too much change in our top 5. Got Heitman rounding out the top 5. Murray in 6th, Miller in 7th, RJ Root in 8th, Matt Long in 9th, and Matt DiCiani in 10th place. We haven't talked about DiCiani too much tonight. He's quietly been moving his way up the field and up into 10th place right now.
Yeah, it's been a great night for him, quiet night. Tell you what, lights are still on the pace truck, so we're going to go to a short break, and we'll be back at the drop of the green for this Stage 3. It's Coben Johnson Championship Saturday, and we're going to catch all the action when we get back. And after another pace lap, we are back for Coben Johnson Championship Saturday. Bryson Hicks leads the field through 3 and 4 towards that Geico restart zone for the start of Stage 3. The race is winding down. The action is winding up as the 63 gets a pretty good jump there. But Jonathan Delaney does exactly what he needs to do. He stays down low, doesn't get trapped in a bad line up high. We've seen that outside line on the restarts really suffer tonight. So staying down low is key, and he was able to do that. Now you got Cam Stone to his outside, right on the quarter panel here, trying to keep alongside, maybe side draft a little bit, so you can get back up to the 63. A little bit of newfound confidence, I would say, for Cam, because he has shown that, hey, I had enough speed to pass John Delaney, had enough speed to maybe get around Bryson if I had more time, but no, he got caught by the end of the stage, and now he's got nothing but green flag racing to try to get it done.
Cam Stone's definitely got a fast car here. Looks like he's trying to make a move here on Bryson already. He's gonna be able to clear him like nothing. That was an amazing move. Quick racing here by Cam Stone, getting back out front. Excuse me, there, getting back out front and showing how dominant he really can be when he wants to.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move, and it seems like those fresh tires are really doing him a lot of favors here. And like you mentioned, Cam was running the conservative line before. It kind of helped him on the long run. Now he's out front. He can set the pace of the race and kind of run whatever line he wants to. So that's only going to help him in this matter. But behind him, look at this. Battle for the top spot in the championship. Jonathan Delaney gets down low in the dogleg. That's going to give him a little bit of an advantage coming into 1 and 2. Bryson Hicks conceding the position to the number 6. And that's going to put John Delaney currently in charge of the championship.
Yeah, don't look now, but Lucas Weitzman is trying to make that same move down to the bottom there. And I apologize, James. Go ahead.
No, I think now this is where we're going to be in the final stage. I think this is where we need to worry about where the drivers are. I think this is where we need to look at where the action's going to be. You know, Rob's in chat. Here comes Hoisman. That's it. So I think we can clearly see who he's rooting on. But I think at the end of the day, this is now the nitty-gritty. This last 120 laps, a few less actually, 117 I think it is. But I think this is where we can now sit back and have them conversations that we were having earlier. You know, about where the drivers are placed, where they should be placed, should Matt Long now be looking at making moves forward? He's got the tyres underneath him. Should we now be looking at where they're at? And I think them conversations that we were having earlier about whether or not they need to be at the front, they definitely now need to be moving. And Matt Long has got to move, and he can't afford that gap that he's got currently at the moment of that probably about a second. He can't really afford to be dropping back anymore now. I think Matt Long, Weitzman, and Delaney and Hicksborough are now going to be thinking, right, this is where we've got to go.
Yeah, Matt Long, you hit the nail right on the head. He's been kind of sitting back, kind of just chilling. Right now is the time for him to really just get on it and move. But because he's been so cautious all night long, he's been lucky to avoid a couple incidents there at the beginning for sure. But now, just like you said, he's going to have fresh rubber. He's going to have plenty of sets of tires. He's been conserving all night long. He's been cautious. He's going to have a great opportunity here. It's just he needs to make that opportunity happen for him, and he needs to do so right now.
Yeah, the laps are winding down, and I mean, we're getting to the point now where in just a few minutes we'll be under 100 to go, which, given the fact that fresh tires were running about 27-second laps, that's not a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. So I kind of went to the House of Cards comparison earlier, where I'm like, every little thing you do in the race, every little move you make is important, and it builds towards how your race finishes. And so that only gets more and more crucial as the race goes on. You have to be more consistent. You have to be your best self and the best driver you can be, because you kind of lose that safety cushion, right? So you mentioned Matt Long nearly having an incident at the start of the race. Let's say Matt Long was collected in that. Let's say he got a little bit of damage, scraped the wall like Adam Benefield had. Well, he would have had something like 310 laps to make up for that mistake. That happens now, it's a lot less time to make up for it.
Oh yeah, they've got to stay safe. They've got to stay safe. They cannot still, to a degree, take the insane risk that they might want to take 5 laps out. You know, we've got a 1.24 second gap between Hoytsma and Alex Murray. If that gap gets out anymore, and I think Dan may have hit it on the head here, where he's turned around and said, I think he's expecting cautions. What he doesn't want, if he is expecting a caution, he doesn't want that caution being caused from the guys in front, because we know how quickly the field can close up with a spinning car. And if those guys come around the corner and say, for instance, we've got Root, Murray and Hicksborough in an accident, they're going to likely have to hit the brakes, caught up, back the field up, and it's all going to check up everybody behind them. So they've got to be, if he is waiting for a caution down, which I think to a degree you may be right, but he doesn't want it to come from the front lot in front of him. It's got to come from behind. And, you know, Matt Long is normally a good long runner, but at the moment, the gap's out to nearly 2 seconds now. So now they've got to be thinking, what are they going to do? Because, you know, something's going to happen. Or as Dan has said again, he knows something about his car in clean air that we don't. Because I tell you what, they've got to, between Hoytsma and Long, they cannot afford that gap to be going out to more than 2 seconds.
Yeah, Long got up into 7th place. He's right behind Hoytsman now. Lucas and him, kind of battling it out there for 7th and 6th. They have a nice gap between them and Murray up ahead of them. So if Long is going to be able to get around Lucas Weitzman and he is going to get into some of that clean air, we will see how quick his car can be. Unfortunately, he's really running out of time here. We're already at 204 laps here, almost at that 100 left to go mark. The clock is ticking. They don't have a lot of time. Cam Stone is out front. He's controlling this race right now. John Delaney in 2nd place. Bryson Hicks trying to make the move down to the bottom, but just too far back here in 3rd place. They're just, Lucas Weitzman and Matt Long are just running out of time. They need to work together almost at this point to get back up there and close that gap up, or Matt Long needs to get out in front of Lucas Weitzman and use that clean air, because Hoytsma's clearly not be able to do so at the moment.
One thing I'm noticing looking at the timing and scoring is that we've not had a lot of attrition. We've had drivers involved in incidents. We've got a lot of drivers several laps down, but there's only a couple drivers really that are completely out of the running, which means there's still a ton of cars on track, which is just making life more difficult for these championship 4. I think if it was up to them, it would just be those 4 guys on track duking it out. But unfortunately, they've got 30 some odd other cars out there that are fighting for their own reasons. They're fighting for their teams. They're fighting for their point situation. They're a number of reasons to be out here racing. And so that just means more and more lap traffic that you gotta carve through. And this is a track where you can get through lap traffic. It's not impossible to pass, but it ain't necessarily easy either. So we're getting towards the end of this thing. Still a very packed field.
Yeah, I think now one of the things I touched on literally a minute ago was they didn't want the gap out above 2 seconds. Well, the gap is now out at 2 seconds, and they're losing literally time. It's now just touching 2.1. They've got to be working together, or Hoytsma's got to try and push that car faster or let Long through. Something's got to happen, and they've got to make a decision now what's going to be best for them. And at the moment, praying for a caution to close this field up may not be the best thing, because it can't always be there. You can't guarantee that's going to happen. Even I can't predict that. I think they've got to look sensibly now, and Hoytsman's got to look at what's going to be best for him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. Just praying for a caution flag right now is definitely not going to be what you want, as this field is really starting to get stretched out here. This is one of the longest green flag runs we've had so far, if you kind of leave out the stage ending there. But yeah, this is definitely a very clean run that we've had here, and it just seems to be hurting Lucas Weitzman. The longer we go here, the further and further back he's falling, and that gap is just becoming bigger and bigger. I'm not sure if maybe he's just kind of sitting back and waiting a little bit and just holding on towards the end of the run, and then he's gonna bring a little bit more. But it just seems a little off that they're falling back so far right now, especially with Delaney and Hicks 2nd and 3rd. You gotta expect them to really want to kind of close that gap up. So I wonder what's going on there.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of seen from Hoytsma and Long all night long that they're just not quite on pace with Delaney and Hickenbaugh, and it's minor, right? Like, I'm saying Delaney and Hickenbaugh might just be a tick faster, but on these long runs that we've had, it kind of adds up. It builds over time, and they pull further and further away. The thing is, generally when that happens, when your car is just that little bit off, when you come down pit road, you make a swing at it. You make a tire pressure adjustment. You change the things you can change. Maybe even brake bias while you're in the car driving it. Trying to squeeze a little bit more speed out of it. And to me, and I don't know, maybe they have made changes and we just can't really perceive any difference. But if they have, it's not done a lot for Hoytsma or Long, because they've just been that little bit off. Still really fast, very competitive cars, but Delaney and Hickenbaugh have just been really commanding this championship battle for the majority of the night. And I think it may continue to be that way. But then again, thinking back to the 2020 championship, it was a very similar situation where there were two cars out front driving away with it. We thought it was going to end one way, and then a late race caution absolutely rewrote history. It changed everything. So, don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. We never know what's going to happen. Maybe Weitzman and Long find a little bit towards the end. I mentioned that Adam Benefield's one of those drivers that never shows his hand until the race is just about over. Well, Matt Long he's a similar kind of guy. Sometimes he's a bit of a closer.
Yeah, gap's out to 2.8 seconds. We've got two banks of 1.4 between Alex Murray already and Bryson Hicks, and another 1.3 back from that is the Weitzman Long train. And, as it says in chat, Cam just pulling the train too damn hard. It could be right. Cam could be the one making the difference from this, because earlier on we didn't see this. We didn't see these gaps appear this far back from these guys. We saw the fact that now we see Delaney is looking at going up the inside of Cam. Currently, maybe Delaney's just turned and said, right, I've had enough now, mate. Thanks very much for your help. You're my pace man, and now it's my turn to go, because it does look like Delaney has made it through on Stone, and now Stone is kind of sitting between the two championship contenders here. But it's got to be now that if Delaney has made that move, Hicksonbrough's got to go with him, because he doesn't want to start losing that amount of time either. Hicksonbrough takes a very different line round that part of the circuit and always chops in very shortly. But Delaney now has made the move. Hicksonbrough's going to go with him. Can Stone stay with him? That's going to be the question we're going to have as well. But can Weitzman and Long catch up? Because at the moment, they're not. And they're, if Delaney gets too far, even Hicksonbrough's going to struggle to catch up with him, I think.
Yeah, Delaney in that fresh air is just really starting to cruise. Cam Stone just kind of sat out there like a sitting duck for a moment there, with Bryson Hickenbaugh having no choice but to get that move done. So he kind of really had to force the issue there, shut the door. It was a clean pass, don't get me wrong, but definitely needs to stay with John Delaney here if you're Bryson Hickenbaugh. But now that he's got some fresh air, John Delaney's starting to just stretch it out a little bit. I think it's about 6/10 that he's got, about almost 6/10 of a lead he's got. And, he's going to be starting to come up into some lap traffic here, so that's going to give him some dirty air. But, right now, just in complete control of the race, John Delaney out there in front. I'm sure this is exactly where he wants to be. That being said, though, with this long run, we're going to have to start seeing some green flag pit stops here probably in the next 40 laps. So right now it's not an issue, but it's going to start coming into play here soon.
Yeah, sooner rather than later. The stage caution was somewhere around lap 190?
180, yeah, 185.
So they've been green for quite some time. And I would say fuel mileage somewhere in the realm of 70 laps or so. But the question there is, do they even want to go a full fuel run before they get new tires? Because we've seen how much fall off there is, and we haven't had the opportunity. And that's kind of a problem for these guys, right? We've not had any green flag stops. We could have. Stage 2 definitely could have had one. It was long enough for it. But the cautions we've had have made every single stop a yellow flag stop. So now these guys maybe don't know. They don't have those calculations of how much should I value tires? How soon should I come in? What kind of strategy should I pull? Normally that'd be a learning curve throughout the race. You would just kind of figure it out through trial and error. There hasn't been any attempts at trialing it. There's not been the chance.
I think that's going to be an interesting thing, and I think from that perspective, Dan's put in chat, what's the pit window looking like? Are we looking at 245 to 255? I think honestly we could be looking around about that 10-lap window. I think that could be how it's going to go. But as you said, Andre, we're starting to see them now, so maybe even not now. We've got Devin Medeiros and Brandon Pearson as well. Tanner Martin's on his way out. Mush has been in the pits, but he's been in the pits for about 3.5 minutes currently. So, maybe it could be anything from 223 onwards to where we're seeing it. It just depends on when these guys have gone in on the yellow flag stops that we have had. So we're going to have to see how this one pans out. And I think now we're getting into green flag stops as well. It's going to make a massive difference to how this field shapes out and where they could end up being. Because If Long takes the early stop, there's a chance he could put the overcut on him. If Delaney takes it too late, there's a chance he could lose it. So there's all these decisions now that these drivers have got to make, and that's going to be the interesting thing, I think.
And I think this is actually really starting to play into Matt Long's kind of long run game plan here. He's got the saved, he's got the rubber in hand. It's starting to see these long flag green runs. You start to see these pit stops here. I think the longer you can run on this stint right here is going to help you at the end, because I don't know if they're really going to need to stop any further. I mean, their tire wear is going to become an issue. But as far as gas is concerned, as far as fuel is concerned, they should theoretically be able to almost make it if they can just push this stint out just a little bit longer.
Yeah, and one thing to consider when you're calculating your own strategy is, what's my car good at? And generally, if your car is good at a long run, it's actually better to take that undercut, because not only do you get that benefit of being on fresh tires, but that penalty of being on older tires than everybody else isn't necessarily a penalty, because once that tire wear evens out and their tires become old, they'll actually be faster than them. You'll still be making up time. So some of these guys who've been good on the long run, like Jonathan Delaney, as he blinks out there, that's a little bit scary. If you're John, maybe it is the play to take the undercut. If you're Bryson Hicks or Cam Stone, who you're just an absolute rocket ship on that short run, maybe stay out on track. Try to put yourself on the newest tires possible versus your opponents and see what you can do with them. But I don't know. It's all a guessing game for us up in the booth, and it's maybe a bit of a guessing game for these guys on the track.
Yeah, they're not going to know where they're at currently at the moment with the state of affair it has been. Obviously, they'll know what their tyre count is because they've got that information. Weitzman and Long have now moved up to third and fourth, partly because Cam Stone's in the pits as well. Damaris Hinkerbottom has also been in the pits as well. So they are now, could be any time now, really. I think, Dan, that you're putting Jack 245, 255. Clearly, it's showing we're a little bit early on that one. It's 223 onwards. But I think from a driver point of view, they've really got to look back and decide now, what are they going to do? What is Hickenberg going to do here with Delaney? Is he going to go in? Is Weitzman going to go in? Is Long going to go in? Is Long wanting to run long? Can he make that car work over this long run that he wants? So it could be that Long might go as far as possible and maybe stop round 245, 255 before he goes again for another 60 laps. So there's a lot going on at the moment, and we're going to need to be on top of it. I hope Carlos has got his number crunchers out in the background there, because he's going to need to tell us what's happening here, because at the moment, we up in the booth, we haven't got a clue. We just know pit stops are coming, they're going to pit, that's it.
Yeah, coming from somebody that doesn't have a clue 24/7, I definitely agree with what you guys are both saying there. And this is where it's going to become very, very, very interesting with the strategy here coming down to the final pit stops. You got your championship four right there, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where you kind of want to see them in the race right now, because this is going to be a huge strategy call here. Who of these four is going to go ahead and try that undercut? Who is going to try to stay out longer? I honestly think, like Andre, you were saying, Delaney has a very strong car when it comes to a long run. It's probably best for him to try to stay out as long as he possibly can. But I'm sorry, you were saying to try the undercut because he can get on the fresh rubber, and then have that strong car for the long run. But how long are they willing to stay out there?
Well, it depends on what's going on around them, too. If they feel super pressured from behind, that might kind of force their hand into what strategy they play. But if they feel comfortable and they don't feel rushed to come in, maybe that kind of pushes them to stay out a little bit longer. I don't know. It's all kind of up to the driver and how they feel about it. Some of these guys have, actual crew chiefs, and 28 goes past the stall there. But some of these guys have real crew chiefs that are in their Discord with them saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're not going to do. Some of these guys, they're on their own. They're just, hey, I am my crew chief. I'm my own spotter. I'm my own driver. I'm everything. So it's a lot tougher for those guys. I think one thing that I'm considering right now is, are we looking at a potential 2-stop versus 1-stop strategy? Because these guys that came in on lap 223, I believe it was, they're just under 90 laps to the end of the race. I don't see going 90 laps on fuel. That would be a pretty big stretch. If these guys can keep going to lap 240, 245, they could make it to the end. So are we maybe looking at a split strategy?
You're looking at, in retrospect, if these guys can get it out to 255, you're looking at 1 stop. And that's what they're going to hope for. If we get a caution at the end, they're all going to be in taking tires to try and run it through. But I think at the moment, you're looking, if they can get to 245, 255, you're going to be looking at a 1-stopper, I think. I don't think they're going to be pushing to try and get 2. I think that they're going to be crazy. But they know how long their tires have lasted for. They know how long they've got. You know, Hoytsma's now opened up a 2.1 second gap over Matt Long, and now I'm getting a little bit worried for Long. I didn't say any of this during the beginning because I thought he would be able to be right up there, but the fact that he's got a 2.2 second gap to Hoytsma as well, Long needs to make a decision about what he's going to do, because at the moment, you know, he's only losing a 10th a lap, but a 29.4 against a 29.3 of Delaney, Hicks and Hoytsma, he's losing time. He needs to either find that 10th or make a decision and try and make that change.
I think he's kind of stuck out in a no man's land, because if he comes in now, he's just going to be stuck there at the end of the long run at the end of the race, kind of falling into that trap again. So I think right now he needs to, out of anybody here, needs to stay out as long as he possibly can. But that being said, he's losing a 10th a lap. That adds up real quick. You know, we don't have a lot of time here left. So he's kind of stuck, you know, in a no man's land between a rock and a hard place. Do you gamble for the fresh rubber, or do you kind of just wait it out and hope for the best? Because I think right now, if I'm Matt Long, I'm trying to stay out as long as I can, because you know that Delaney and Hickenbaugh and now Hoytsma are faster than you on the long runs.
Yeah, that is a good point. And as we've been following along with Robert Miller here, he's right behind Matt Long, who is fallen back to 5th to Derek Heitman in the 76, who kind of just really slid past him there and made it look pretty easy for that 4th position. But yeah, I think these guys are definitely trying to stretch it out. You know, they're trying to get to that 245, 250, maybe if they can go far enough, maybe 255. But for some of these guys, I think we're getting to the point. You know, earlier James said, well, Matt Long, Lucas Weitzman, they don't want that gap going over 2 seconds. That's kind of death sentence territory. And well, now Matt Long is 8 seconds back. Lucas Weitzman is 5.5 seconds back. They may be hoping for a sort of freak caution or something to bunch the field back up at this point, because even if they made some time up on strategy, it was going to be difficult to make up 8 or even 9 seconds on strategy.
The concerning thing is here, the car that just got whizzing past us was Devin Medeiros, right? Devin stopped on lap 223, and he's literally gone flying past Matt Long as if Matt was on roller skates. You know, Matt might as well have been on ice at the point that Devin Beard went past him, because they flew through, right? Matt Long pitted on 187. So that sits back now, 87, 97. We're nearly sitting on 57 and up old tires for Matt Long. If his car is going, it can go long, he needs to really figure out what he's got to do. And Dan's got it in chat. He has to be Long coming in first here if he wants to shot. And that's true. Matt Long, his long run has not worked. He needs to be in that pit lane. He needs to be getting tires. Even if he goes again later on, he needs something to give him the boost. And at the moment, being out there on the set, when you've got Devin Medeiros down in 23rd place, passing you as if you're a standing brick wall, it's not good. It's not good. The people need to get in. You know, Heitman's gone past him. Miller's gone past him. Somebody needs to get in Matt Long's ear and say, bud, you need to go. You need to go, because unless you're expecting blue miracles here, you're not making this work.
I really think that Matt Long is, his strategy kind of just didn't work out for him today. I'm not saying that it's over for him. Obviously, we could definitely see quite a bit happen here in the last 60, 80 laps. But that being said, he's clearly falling off the pace. He doesn't have the long run pace that the top 3 drivers have. He's got to make a decision here, like you said. Got to come down in the pits, got to make a move here. But that being said, I still think he would need, another Hail Mary on top of it. I think if he was to pit now, he would need, as we see, Bryson Hicks is the first of our championship drivers to drop into the pits. Bryson Hicks is in the pits. But Matt Long needs not only to come into the pits now, get fresh rubber now, but also have a crazy fast short stint and then get back in on fresh rubber again, hoping that the rest of the guys stay out on one stop. So I think that's his only real chance here is, taking advantage of a free caution.
So I think Bryson here is just taking whatever the other guys do the opposite strategy.
Mm-hmm.
He saw the other 3 staying out longer and longer and longer, and maybe kind of engaged in a game of chicken for a second. So maybe like, who's going to be the first one to come down pit road? Well, it was Bryson. He was the first to drop down, like you said, and now he's got fresh tires. The question is, what does everybody else do? Well, Delaney has come down pit road. Looks like Matt Long has also come down pit road. Lucas Weitzman is the final driver of the championship for to stay out. He's got Derek Heitman about 3.2 seconds back. Now, how far will Lucas stretch this? Because I think Lucas knows he has not had the fastest car of the night. And if he wants to get this championship, you mentioned a Hail Mary, this could be it.
He's got to grab every opportunity that's given to him. And he's got to do it now. He's got to be putting the gaps in. Delaney's out now. Long's out. They're right down, he's got to be going for it. He's got to pick them up. He's got to chuck them in his pocket. And he's got to go with some steelies and go and sort this out, because now we're coming down to the nitty-gritty. Now this is where the urgency is going to be kicking in for these drivers. And they've got to be doing it, and they've got to be making their moves as soon as possible. And this is it. There you go, Blake Henderson. There is your man, Dustin Hall, on track currently. Dustin did get caught up in 2 incidents. Cars coming from bottom to top took him out, and another car coming from the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom also took him out. So that's why Dustin Hall is where he is. But now the urgency's got to kick in. Literally, we've got 62 laps. Something's got to give.
Yeah, I would say Bryson Hicks did have a clean air out lap, so that's definitely going to help him quite a bit. I didn't see what John Delaney had, but when Bryson Hicks came out, he did have an open track there for at least a full lap, if not a lap and a half. So that's definitely going to help him out. As we see, Lucas Weitzman is now coming into the pits, so all 4 of our championship drivers have come into the pits, and that's going to leave Derek Heitman out front there. Derek Heitman is your new race leader.
Just going to get himself some camera time and maybe a few laps led for the stat sheets. And we'll see how far he stretches it. He may be the final holdout. It's Cameron Stone currently running P2. RJ Root there in 3rd. He's right behind the boss man, Randy Drumhiller in 44. He drops back to Hutchison as he's going to come down pit road. Everybody kind of working their way around him. And up front, right, Heitman still leading and Stone still 2nd place. And this is where it gets interesting, because we're going to see the field completely jumbled up. The playoff drivers are pretty much nowhere to be seen because they are almost exclusively on a differing strategy than the rest of these guys. But the highest running playoff driver right now, Jonathan Delaney, he just reached the top 10. He's 19 seconds back from Stone. And the timing and scoring isn't showing us where the next one might be. It is Bryson Hicks in
11th.
Yeah.
He's about a second back from John. So Bryson pitted a lap early, which really should have made up about a second half, 2 seconds. But the gap is the same as it was when he went in.
Yeah, and there's Cam Stone currently out in front as well. It's important now for whatever these guys are going to come across, they've got to do quickly. If they're going to come across a back marker, they've got to clear them quick, because they don't want to be losing time. Matt Long at the moment has just got past Taylor, got past Heitman because they're in the pits. Heitzman's behind Long, so that's an interesting factor, because they were the other way round when Heitzman it was a good 3-second gap, I think it was, over Long. He's now behind Long. So Long is kind of there. He's still there, but he needs to be a little bit further there, I've got to be honest, because if we're going to go into the there, and there's, Long is just not there, and he needs to be up there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised Bryson Hicks came out as far behind Delaney as he did, because like you said, he did pit earlier, and I noticed that he had it seemed like he had a great outlap. So I'm really surprised that Delaney is as far ahead as he is, but I did not see Delaney's outlap either, so he might not have had to deal with any traffic or had clean air as well. So this is definitely going to be very interesting here. It's going to put our championship leaders, Delaney and Hicks-Enbaugh, on fresh rubber towards the end of the race here. We come down just over 50 laps to go. Just over 50 laps to go. I'm not going to try to math right now, but yeah, no, this is definitely going to come down to the end here, and it's going to be really exciting. But right now, your championship leader is still John Delaney at the moment.
2 cars currently separating Delaney and Hicks-Enbaugh on track. Now those are not for position, but still providing him to be a bit of an obstacle, as there goes Randy Drumhiller down low on Jonathan Delaney. Of course, Randy has some of the freshest tires in the field. He was one of the last holdouts to come down pit road. So those rubbers are probably feeling pretty good under that car, and he's going to be able to get around our current championship leader. Delaney and Hicks-Enbaugh continuing to reel in the rest of this pack, but not really getting any closer to one another. And there's John again, trying to make sure he sticks to the bottom. And again, I like that move. Every time we see somebody get stuck up high, they just start to fall back. They lose a lot of time up there. These guys want to be down on that yellow line. And Delaney could have made the mistake right there of trying to let multiple cars go at once, because he knows they got fresher tires. And he could have just stayed up high, given up time, and then boom, you got Bryson right behind you. But no, he let one car go, and then he immediately ducked back down low and said, all right, this guy behind me wants to get me. He's going to have to pass me the normal way, because I can't afford to be giving up time when I got that orange car in my rear view mirror.
Now, the interesting point about that, right, is just Drumhiller's tires, as we were talking about, right, he went in on 251. Delaney went in on 246. So we're only talking 5 laps. And Drumhiller made that move look pretty straightforward to get past. You know, Bryson's closing. We can see him there at the same time. So at the moment, I'm sure there's nothing that I need to be sat here thinking, oh my God, what is going on, Delaney? But the only thing I can sit here and say to you is Delaney's lap time on that last lap was a 28.29. Bryson Hicks-Enbaugh's was dead the same, 28.29. So, you know, they're still doing the same kind of thing. My worry is now is look at where we are in the race. We're at 261. We've barely got 50 laps remaining. And these guys are caught up with a pack of cars that could go completely wrong, as we see one of them already tagged the wall in front of us. Now, this would be the moment for Delaney that he's got to decide that, okay, do I go? Because if I go, I need to really go and get past them. Or do I stay within this pack? And at the moment, from Delaney's point of view, the 12 car is crawling all over him like an absolute baby monkey all over his mother at the moment. And he's now in that stage where this is the fearful point. This could be a caution that may not want to involve him, but just where he sat, it may involve him. So Delaney needs to now really go and make a decision. What's he going to do?
Yeah, Delaney was definitely in a bit of a sketchy position there, but right behind him, Bryson Hicks-Enbaugh is dealing with the same exact thing. So it's not just Delaney that's having to feed through this traffic, but also Bryson Hicks-Enbaugh really just doing his best to try to stick with him while feeding through all this this traffic here. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for both of these drivers to not only keep their nose clean, but for Delaney and Hicks-Enbaugh to stay, you know, within touch of each other. Delaney's trying to put as much traffic behind him as he can. Bryson Hicks-Enbaugh trying to stay in touch and get as close as he can. And yeah, these two drivers are definitely moving up the field here as RJ Root is in the pits. So that's going to put John Delaney back in the 3rd place. Bryson Hicks-Enbaugh up in the 4th place. Cam Stone's still out front. Matt Long taking a peek into the top 10 now. So this is definitely going to become a dash to the finish here. I think that both of these drivers are definitely set up very well, but do you think, Andre, do you think they're going to have enough rubber to stay out there and stay competitive for the rest of this race?
Well, I think they're definitely going to be slower than some of these guys that are on the two-stop strategy that are going to be coming down pit road here. But I think they've got a big enough gap that they have accrued that it probably won't come into play. I can't imagine the two-stop strategy being much faster, if at all. So I kind of see that happening. Now, one thing I kind of want to mention, too, is earlier mentioned, James and I were kind of talking about how the race could be going one way, and the trends point towards a certain thing. And when this race started, we had a lot of cautions. They were pretty frequent, and we weren't really getting very many long runs. That really changed. I mean, that like a light switch got flipped. We have not seen hardly any cautions in the last half of this race. It has stayed completely green. It is complete opposite of what we saw at the start. And I got to wonder if some of these guys that were staying out as long as they were, some of these drivers that are maybe on the two-stop strategy, maybe they were banking on this race staying the way that it was, getting as many cautions as we were getting. And then all of a sudden, they got the rug pulled out from underneath them because this thing has stayed completely green.
Yeah, I think that's the whole surprising thing of it, because we were flying through cautions like, it was a referee in a football match just giving them out left, right, and centre because people were kicking them up in the air. But now it's settled down a bit. And we've been on these long green runs, which I think all of us really expected Matt Long to make the most of the long runs, because he has done all season. He hasn't. So now he's kind of stuck in that no man's land of where we go. What do I do? How do I do this? What's going to happen? What if I change this? And it could be over tinkering with things that we can change in the car. But one thing we do know is that 9 seconds he's got at the moment from John Delaney in the lead to himself needs to come down. And it needs to come down any way possible. The scary thing for John and Bryson is where they're positioned on track. The cars around them, anything can happen. They can get caught up with it. For the others, they've got to try and make things happen for them. Delaney and Hicks have got to stay out of the trouble and not get involved with it. But Long and Weitzman have got to make it happen, or make something happen that's going to change their course of their evening. With a little over 42 laps to go, something's got to give here, and it's really now down to Long and Weitzman to make something happen, where Delaney and Hicks have just got to try and stay out of trouble and stay safe.
I'm not really sure that there's an opportunity here to make something happen short of a strange caution, because with 41 laps to go here, you're gonna stopping for a fresh set of rubber under a green flag is just gonna hurt you. You're not gonna get the pace advantage that you want at any point. You're not gonna be able to really make that pit stop work for you. So if you're Lucas Weitzman or Matt Long, that's not really an option to do a green flag pit stop. You kind of, shot yourself in the foot if that's what you were thinking. So now these guys, not only do they have to stick with the long run, but they've got to make something happen, and there's no time for that to happen. They're 10 seconds back from John Delaney right now. Yeah, they're racing each other tooth and nail, but we know Lucas Weitzman has a little bit better of a long-run car than Matt Long. We know Matt Long just kind of seems to fall off a little bit, which is exactly the opposite of what he has been doing all night. So this is definitely going to, come down to the last couple laps here. But I just think, unless something crazy happens, this championship is really starting to shape into a two-horse race.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely the way it's looking, and I find it interesting when they got to traffic and it was really thick and they had a lot of cars to work through. Bryson was able to bring the gap down. It was 1.5 seconds, brought it down to 0.7 of a second. Now they got out of traffic. They got through that pack of cars and it's gone right back up, 1.3 seconds and counting. It seems to me like Bryson is doing a bit of a better job carving through traffic making these passes in a timely manner, not wasting any time or track. Whereas John was a little bit slower. He was a little bit more cautious, as you're going to be. You're leading the race and the championship. You can afford yourself a little bit of caution, a little bit of being careful. But oh no! It changes things as a huge wreck happens. Is that one of the playoff drivers?
Patrick Moshe, Chad Sano at the moment.
Yeah, these two have history, guys. These two have been having issues all night long. Patrick actually was in another Discord saying, this Chad Sanner guy. So this is not the first incident they've had.
Oh, that's not going to help then, is it really? Look, on the rear quarter.
Ooh.
Oh, does that look any more different to the Dalton Mobley one we saw earlier?
That also looks like retaliation.
Yeah, I'm not going to put the retaliation gate situation, but can you see how that kind of doesn't look any different? But yet we've said what we said earlier on, but could that be the same thing? Or maybe we're just, being skeptical here, but as it is expected, Delaney, Hicks, Weitzman and Long all in the pits. So now we are on a straight sprint till the end for the last 36 laps.
Yeah, if you're one of those championship drivers, you don't have a choice but to come in right now, get that fresh rubber. This is just gonna bring us to that sprint, like you're saying, coming down with just under 40 laps here to go. It's gonna be really interesting, but Andre, like you were saying, Delaney seemed to be faster in the clean air. He was able to pull that gap on Bryson Hicks, but as soon as they came into traffic, yeah, Hicks was able to cut through it really easily comparatively, and he was really making up some time there, and it looked like Delaney was coming into another set of traffic there. So I think if anybody missed out on this caution here, it's Bryson Hicks. I think out of all four of these drivers, I think he's the one that wanted it to stay green the most there, because he was kind of making that traffic work for him.
Yeah, Weitzman's passed Long in the pits, boys. Just want to point out, Weitzman got past Long. So it's going to be interesting to see now. Weitzman is up a little bit further, so we'll see how that one pans out. But I think it's now going to be a straight sprint. Sorry, Andre, off you go.
No, you're all right. No worries. You're absolutely right. With Weitzman getting around Matt Long, that kind of changes things. And this is, I think right now, it's going to be impossible to make a prediction because you know what they say, cautions breed cautions. We are very close to the end of this thing. It'll be lap 280 by the time we get going green, which is just over 40 laps to the finish. That'll go by in a blink. So these guys are going to be pushing these cars harder than they've pushed them all night long. And again, very little attrition. There is still a ton of cars in this field. I'm a little bit concerned, that this may kind of resemble what we saw at the beginning of the race, where we're going to get a caution, things are going to get crazy, and maybe we get a few more.
Yeah, we don't want that. I'm not going to, as you say, being completely and utterly skeptical about the whole thing that we have been, as we're saying, caution breeds caution, but we really don't want an 11th caution. We want this to go now for the last 32 laps. Go sprint, go race. Let's actually see now, because there's nothing they're going to be waiting for any longer than this is it. This is the scenario. Long, Delaney, Hicks, Weitzman. Oh, there's a 53's in the wall behind him. That's Preston McRae, straight in the wall. Is he coming? Are we going? Are we not going to go? Or we're going? We're waiting again. No go. We're not going to go. So we're waiting again now as Preston McRae just nose dives the wall there. That was very bizarre, mind you. Does he just get? Oh, that's an overcorrection we were talking about, Andre. You were talking about earlier on, Andre. Looked like he lost the slide, overcorrected, and in the wall. So we'll wait again.
Yeah, that was a really interesting overcorrection there, because it looked like he just barely kind of tapped to the left, and all of a sudden he was just shooting right into the wall. So I don't know if maybe just cold tires, he hit the brakes a little bit and it just kind of gripped on him, but it looks like that pace truck is off the field. So we might be going green here instead. It's going to be interesting. We've seen that top line kind of fall out of favor here. So John Delaney is going to have to get a really good jump here and try to get down and block Bryson Hicks. Bryson Hicks has a great opportunity here following Cam Stone on the bottom line.
I do want to point out, I just got word that the incident between Miche and Sander was allegedly not intentional, and I'm kind of inclined to believe it because if you look at the steering wheel in that replay, he was kind of turning right when he made that contact. He wasn't turning left into him, so it does look like he got loose, and I think this word I'm hearing that it was not intentional is probably true. Anyways, as the green flag has flown, Cameron Stone is able to get away with the lead as we have got a bit of a moment there for the 97 sliding up the track, nearly getting into a car on the outside, but they're able to gather it up. It is currently Delaney who leads the championship here on lap 281. He's got Bryson Hicks right behind him and Cameron Stone in front. Bryson peaks low, but he's not going to have enough momentum to make anything happen with it quite yet. Let's go on board with his number 63 as he's watching John try to get down to the bottom of Cameron Stone, who again, yeah, Cameron's not in it for the championship, but he is not going to let John drive away too easy. He's not going to give it to him. Guys, Cam does want this win. He's going to try and maybe play some defense, but it's all for naught as it looks like the number 63 goes down low, and it's going to be a 2-for-1 special on Cam, possibly, if Bryson can make this happen.
Yeah, we've got Hickenbrough trying to go through. Hoytsman's not going to be far behind him, and neither is Long. Long, the worrying thing about Long is that second already. You see on the left-hand side there, got 1.7. Not an ideal. Delaney's just put the fastest lap on a 27.26 there. So it's really, I think it's going to come down to a Hickenbrough and Delaney sprint to the end. And I don't know, maybe Long's just not there anymore. And I just fear for where he is at the moment with these last few laps ticking off. And unless all of a sudden he's got Noz in that car that he's going to boost round, or he's going to pull a Ross Chastain and just shoot it around the walls. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but whatever he's going to do, Matt Long, you need to do it quick, buddy, because you are dropping down the order faster than an elevator with no brakes at the moment, bud.
And I would say Lucas Weitzman, showing his face up there in the top three, was able to get around Cam Stone pretty easily. Quickly up there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's able to save it.
Yeah, he saved him. He was against the wall. That would have been disastrous.
Yeah,
Sorry, anyway.
No, you're good. That would have been absolutely disastrous there for Matt Long. I was just pointing out, Lucas Weitzman is definitely throwing his hat back in the ring here, trying to get up there. But John Delaney, under clean air, has just got such a fast car. I'm really impressed at the speed he's able to keep and the gap he's putting on right now. 7/10 already.
Yeah, that is a pretty big lead. I really thought with Bryson's really good short run speed that when we got this caution they were going to be under green, that Bryson was probably going to get out to the lead and maybe hold it for a while, and then I kind of foresaw John trying to take it back at the very end, but that's not how it played out. John has been a rocket ship, hitting his fastest lap of the race. I believe James pointed it out with a 27.2. That's an absurdly fast lap time to be getting a 0.2. He is just on a mission right now. And Hoytsma right behind Bryson trying to figure out where can I get around him, what line do I need to use, because really Phoenix has been a bit of a one-line track this week. It seems like the bottom is the place to be. It's the place to make the overtakes. You can't really pass on the high line. So if you're Lucas Weitzman, what do? Do you wait for a mistake? Do you try to pressure him into a mistake? Not a whole lot you really can do, but he's going to do whatever he can because laps are winding down and all four of these drivers want that title.
Yeah, whatever. I don't think Hoytsman's going to be waiting. Hoytsman needs to pressurize him, because if he does wait, and if he waits and waits and waits, Delaney's going to be opening up gaps after gap after gap. With 25 to go now, we can kind of safely say Long maybe out of this. I'm going to, hell, I've been a Matt Long fan. I thought he was going to come along and go and win this thing, but it's now looking like these three up front are within this run down to the last 24, and Hoytsma, if he's going to make a move, needs to make it. I think he needs to be climbing all over the back of Hickenbrough, either say, look son, get on with it, or get out of the way. And now Delaney's pulling out they've just nearly touched the second gap, and he still looks like Delaney looks like he's got speed to spare. So They are definitely in trouble now.
Just put that lap into context. I've been kind of looking through here. And let's just say ballpark. We have 32 cars in the field today. We're down to 27 left. About 10 cars, give or take 10 cars, touching the 27.4s. One car, Derek Heitman, has a 27.3. Delaney is a full tenth ahead of that. So not only is he 2/10 ahead of a majority of the field, he's another tenth ahead of the second fastest lap. And he's doing that this far into the race. Absolutely dominating right now. Stunning race here by John Delaney. It's his to lose at this moment. It's his championship to lose at this moment.
And one thing to consider, too, with these lap times getting fast, obviously John is just outright fast. He has proven that with this little stint that he's on right now. But also, track temps are going down. The sun is starting to fall beyond the horizon. It's not really beating down on the pavement like it was before. We're getting a little bit of cloud cover. You can see the track's a little bit cooler than it was when we started. Now, that's relative. This is cool for Phoenix, which is, miserably hot all the time. But that is going to affect the handling. And that's an interesting little thing to note when these guys have been running this race with the track being a certain temperature and the car handling a certain way all night long. Now, right at the beginning of the race, when it matters most, conditions are changing.
Yeah, and I'm struggling to sit here at the moment and think, how are they going to catch Delaney up front? And are they going to catch Delaney up front? As Michael said, this is now settled down to Delaney's to lose, and yet Delaney looks like he's the one that set his car up best for these conditions later on, because at the moment he's pulling out lap time on these guys. He's pulling out time on these guys as if he's got his own personal time zone at this moment in time, because he's now 1.2, just over 1.12, and still going, and yet he's still doing 28 ones, and everybody behind 28.21, 28.19. Matt Long's out at 28.22. So, yeah, they've got to be. I don't know what they're praying for. I don't know what's happening all of a sudden, why they've dropped back so far. Or maybe just Delaney is outright fast.
Yeah, Delaney is definitely outright fast, as we know. He's won so many races this season. I believe it would be his 10th race win if he wins tonight. But that being said, I'm a little curious. I'm going to jump out of the championship conversation. I know we got 18 laps to go to settle this final championship here. I am a little curious about what happened to Cam Stone. He was up there running with in the lead, and then he fell back into third place. Someone dropped all the way back in the 10th place. So I don't know if maybe something happened with that. Now that the track's changing a little bit, his car's a little looser. He's not able to, keep up the pace. Maybe he did stop a little bit before everybody else, so his tires aren't as fresh. But it just seemed like Cam Stone kind of dropped like a rock there.
Yeah, definitely doesn't have the pace that we saw earlier. And then while he's falling back, we've got Kevin Steele in the 24. He's reached the top 10. We haven't really talked about him all night long. I do know that at one point, Kevin was all the way back, I want to say as far back as 19th when I was taking a look at him. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But somehow, through some pretty good strategy and through wheeling that car, he's all the way up in 8th. And it's not just that he got there through the restart or he got there just through strategy. He's got speed, too. He's pulling away from Alex Murray. He's not really letting Ryan get too far away from him. Kevin Steele coming on strong at the end of this thing.
I could go tell you now, Michael, back to the Cam Stone. He's on 9 lap older tyres than everybody in front of him. Cam pitted on 266, Alex Murray put it on 271, and it could explain Kevin Steele's pace because he pitted on 276 and everybody above that on 275. So from Cam Stone's perspective, his tyres are 9 laps older than everybody else's. From Kevin Steele, he's got 1 lap younger tyres than everybody else in front of him at the moment because he pitted 1 lap later. So Kevin Steele coming through, making moves up into 8th at the moment. Delaney now getting the gap out at 1.59 and still growing. So unless there's some form of miracle happening, I think, to be honest, me and Andre are going to have to concede defeat here, and could be a Delaney victory.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that because we got 13 laps to go. Anything can happen here. We could see another caution that would bring the field right back together. Things could definitely happen here. We've seen John Delaney make, a mindless mistake here and there once or twice. I don't expect one tonight, but it is possible. So with 13 laps to go, I wouldn't quite say this championship is over by any means. That being said, he's really getting that solid gap out there to Bryson Hicks and Boss. So that's got to be gut-wrenching for Bryson to be so close all night long. Then all of a sudden, John Delaney gets that fresh air, and he's just kind of gone. So that's definitely got to be crushing there. But, anything can happen. 12 laps to go, about to be on 11 laps to go. We are not out of the woods yet. This is going to come down to the final couple laps here. And it's been exciting so far. I'm sure we still got a couple more exciting moments up our sleeves.
It's definitely not over yet, and I will say this is going to be the longest 11 laps of John Delaney's career because he's just hoping and praying that there is not going to be yellow, that there's no lap traffic, there's nothing crazy happening around him. He just wants to be able to run his line, hit his marks, have no worries, and close this thing out. This is what the whole season been leading to, the whole race. Just wants to close it out. And again, still expression same as ever, just kind of focused, trying to stay calm. You can see on the bottom right of the 3-wide TV multicam. And behind him, you got some drivers that, like you guys said, may be hinging on a caution at this point, because while 1.3 seconds is maybe doable for Bryson, if Delaney makes a bobble here or there, maybe he gets loose, sacrifices some time. It's a long shot, but it's possible. Then you got Lucas Weitzman, 4 seconds back. You're not really making that up in 9 seconds. It's just not going to be feasible. So it's definitely shaping up to be John's race, but 9 more laps to go.
Yeah, unless something drastic happens right about now, somewhere along the line, a caution comes out. This is going to be Delaney wrapping this up. This is who we're looking at. We're looking at, the 222 champion here, I think, because he's pulling out a 10 for the moment. He did drop back down to 1.3. Well, down, you can see it now, but it goes back up. And I think from Delaney's point of view, you can see his face. Some of his expressions are awesome. The way he starts looking, pulls his chin up in the air and really concentrates on the side of his mouth as well. So he's really putting in this maximum effort. And Hicksonbrough's got to try and put it in with him. But the problem is Hicksonbrough can't. 28.7 he was literally 100th of a second quicker than Delaney on that last lap. That's it. The gap's down at 1.1. Can it come down anymore? Can Delaney wrap this up? I think Delaney has got this wrapped up, and we're going to find out in practically the next 5 minutes, if that.
Yeah, John Delaney definitely looks calm, cool, and collected, just as he has all night long. But that being said, you can almost sense that he can taste it. He's right there, ready to close it up. It looks like he's got it on his face. He's holding it back, but he is almost there. I'm just kind of stunned at the ability that he's had to, have this extra pace that he's saved up here at the end of the race. Bryson Hicks just has not been able to, match this final little push here. He's been right there with him all race long, and then all of a sudden here, just John Delaney just finds that extra gear. He's really able to push it out a little bit, and as long as we stay green and he doesn't make any stupid mistakes, I think you're looking right there at your championship winner.
And Bryson Hicks just closing in a little bit here and there, but it may be too little too late, as it's about 0.8 seconds, 0.9 now at the line. Closing in, running faster than our leader, but only 5 to go. It's going to be 4 once he takes the line this time. Just, man, oh man, 0.8 seconds now. Trying to reel him in, trying to close in, but also how much of that is just John maybe taking it easy. He knows he's got almost a second lead. There's not really a whole lot Bryson can do. And you don't really gain a whole lot from pushing with 4 to go. As long as you got the lead, you keep the other guy behind you. That's what you got to do. No point in taking any unnecessary risks. You see the sun getting in the driver's eyes there going into what is now 3 and 4. But, yeah, he's just trying to keep it cool, calm, collected, trying to do what he can. And he's doing what he needs to do. Bryson's closing in a little bit, but it's just not going to be enough time barring a caution. So we've been following along as well on the top of the 3-wide TV multicam with some other drivers throughout the field. Matt Long in particular, who is about 6 seconds back. Lucas Weitzman 5 seconds back. These guys are pretty much out right now, barring a caution. Here comes Jonathan Delaney. It's going to be 2 to go at the line. This lap and the next, 4 sets of turns for John Delaney, and he may add himself to the list of 100% Cup Series champions. First, it was Cameron Stone. Then it was Adam Benefiel. Now it may be Jonathan Delaney. He's going to work his way down the back straightaway for the penultimate time and into 3 and 4 to the white flag. Once he takes the white, guys, this race is official. If caution comes out, well, that's it. We're done. And there's the white flag. So no caution to save the field. Nothing to aid Bryson, Lucas, or Matt Long. And it's just one more perfect lap as there's a bit of a moment further back in the field. Bryson just sending it through the corners, brings it down to half a second, but down the back straightaway for the final time. You see the smile on his face. He knows he's got it. Fist in the air. Jonathan Delaney is your 2022 100% Cup Series champion, and he's even shaking the desk. He's so excited.
Yeah, he done a stellar job there all the way through. Unbelievable. You know, Delaney did it. He's got a smile on his face. He's crossed the line. His fists are in the air. He's going to be happier than absolutely anything at the moment. All that 35 races before that, and it comes down to that one, and he's just, you know, taking it dominantly in the end. You know, he got literally, I thought Bryson was going to come and take them both out at one point because it come right the way down to like 0 point barely anything. But I think from Delaney's point of view, absolutely incredible drive. And unfortunately for me and Andre, well, you know, we just have to suck it up and on to next season, Andre. Maybe we can get it right next year.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was an absolutely stunning performance there, especially towards the end for John Delaney. Just to be able to pull up that gap and just keep it there. I kind of agree with you, Andre. I think that was less Bryson catching back up and more Delaney just, you know, trying to be calm and collected and just, you know, not make any mistakes, you know, keeping it, keeping it cool as we see him throwing the donuts around. Here he goes, celebrating that win, celebrating his championship victory. Just like you guys said, he had a huge smile on his face when he smacked the table there. Excellent win here for John Delaney.
Yeah, that was what the whole season led to, and it's one of those times where, you know, you can argue about the playoff format and the legitimacy of it, but I think with 10 wins on the season, an average finish in the single digits, he was definitely the one who deserved it. I mean, even in the playoff format, he absolutely earned every bit of this. And this celebration is, well, it's his.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, look at him. He's so happy about now. Absolutely done a blinded job. The burnout on the line there as well. Absolutely flying along nicely. So there's no superlatives you could say. Fully deserved, I would have thought, to be fair as well. And I don't think any of the other drivers are going to argue with the fact that how well Delaney did this season to put himself in this position and now, you know, take the championship. It's done. It doesn't matter about format, it doesn't matter about the way it is, it doesn't matter how it goes. He's done it. This is what it is. He's got to done it. So absolutely stellar job by John Delaney.
I honestly think that it's just absolutely stunning that he's able to not only win the championship in the playoff format, but I mean, with those 10 wins, you know, absolutely just completely dominating, even if it was the old school, just, you know, rack up the races and win, you know, you can't talk about anything but the fact that John Delaney won this championship fair and square, straightforward, with just pure dominance from start to finish, not only from, you know, the playoffs, but just throughout the season, just absolutely always up top there, you know, taking 10 wins, just always consistently towards the front of the field. Absolutely just completely, you know, dominating this season. He deserved that. There's no way around it. John Delaney deserved it. Whether you had the playoff or the old school version, it doesn't matter. John Delaney deserves the championship.
And, you know, I don't think the other playoff drivers have too much to be upset about. Really, these guys had great races. Matt Long and Lucas Weitzman, both of these guys were a little bit uncertain of this track. They didn't feel super confident going in. Well, they weren't confident, but they came in, they ran top 5, they made their bid at it, and they had a phenomenal night. I mean, if this wasn't for a championship, if they didn't absolutely have to win, you'd hold your head high. You'd say, hey, that was a good points day. You know, back when good points days were a thing before the playoffs. But, you know, they had a good night, and they can't be too upset about it. But here is your final race results. Jonathan Delaney taking home the race win and the championship. Bryson Hicks bought P2. And Derek Heitman works his way up to 3rd. Lucas Weitzman 4th, Matt Long 5th, the final playoff driver. Kevin Steele, we talked about him when he was in 8th. Well, while we weren't looking, he gained 2 more positions, working his way up to 6th, capping off the season strong. Ralph Hutchison is going to be P7. Trevor Ryan in 8th. Randy Drumhiller, look at that, top 10 from the Drumhammer. And behind him, Alex Murray rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, we've got Cam Stone in 11th, Jason Taylor in 12th, Matt Dicciani in 13th, Alex Van der Zan in 14th, Brandon Pierce in 15th, Damian Acarenza in 16th, got himself involved with a few little incidents this evening, Alex Princeton in 17th, Alan Benefield in the end down in 18th place, got caught up in an incident. I think he better give damage to his car. Didn't unfortunately be able to take the victory like he did so well, but you know, down in 18th currently at the moment when it moves up.
One of these days it'll scroll.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, there you go. Carlos hit the wrong one. Chad Tanner in 19th and Devin Medeiros down in 20th.
Yep, rounding out the top 20. There you go. 21st, Tanner Marty. Kyle Ammon coming through in 22nd. Demarius Higginbottom in 23rd. Dustin Hall in 24th. Preston McRae in 25th. Raymond Root, RJ Root in 26th. Robert Miller in 27th. Patrick Muchet in 28th. Wayne Grassi in 29th. 30th, we have Tyler Pisano. Pinsono, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Dalton Mobley coming through in 31st. 32nd would be Blake Giglio, and definitely not the race that Blake wanted. He was out early because of an incident, and you know, but yeah, no, definitely a solid run for all 4 of our championship drivers tonight. Matt Long, you know, Lucas Hoitzma, you know, we were talking about them just not having the pace there. Even that being said, just rounding out top 5, you know, 4th and 5th place there, still great runs there. And then for Bryson Hicks to come through in 2nd place, you know, all 4 of those drivers had great races tonight. But there's your championship winner right there.
And there he is indeed. Now, we were going to try to have post-race interviews with all 4 playoff drivers. However, I don't see Matt Long in the waiting room, so I'll tell you what. Let's throw it to just a brief intermission while I go and have a word with one of the admins, figure out how we're going to format these interviews. Give me 1 second, and we'll be back with all of the information from our drivers and see how they saw tonight's race. Don't go anywhere.
All right, guys, so that is it from me this season. Absolutely stellar job. Thank you so much for having me along. Much love to Kevin and Damaris as well. Absolutely amazing job bringing in myself and Michael. But I ain't going to bow out before the interviews because it's like nearly 4 o'clock in the morning for me. So much love to everybody in chat. Thank you again for having me. Carlos as well, much love to you. Andre, I hope, stunning job. Well done. Thank you so much. But for me, guys, it's a good night, and I am off to bed. You all take care, and much love again, and well done to John Delaney for taking the championship.
Good having you, James.
Take care, all.
All right, so we got a lot of interviews to work through. We did locate Matt Long. He was still climbing out of the car, had to undo the old Hans device and the helmet AC, but we found him. So we're going to start out with Matt Long, and then we're going to get to Derek Heitman, and we're going to try to really work through everybody. But Matt Long first. Let's see what he thinks. Matt Long, you had a copy?
Oh, yeah. What's up, guys?
Well, Matt Long, it was LDR in Victory Lane. Just not your LDR car. You had a really good run all night long, super consistent as your season has been. Ultimately, just came up a little bit short. How did you feel about your race?
Yeah, it was tough. Car was okay. It was just I just kind of lost like aero balance on the longer runs, and I was fighting it all day, tight in the middle, loose off, and drove my ass off. Happy with the race. Well, I wanted to win, but competitive. Glad John won. The season. Glad it. Had a good season. I'm excited. It's over. I'm looking forward to the off season.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I had to move somebody into the waiting room. So, you said in your interview that this track was definitely one that you were kind of, maybe you didn't lack confidence here, but it wasn't your favorite. Did you learn anything over the course of this race that maybe you're going to take into next year?
Yeah, more so about the car for sure. Just we tried something wild with the setup. I felt like I couldn't beat John and Bryson, heads up. So I tried something a little bit different with the setup. It was close. So I think I learned some stuff that we can carry into next season for tracks like this for sure.
Absolutely. Now, when this race started, it was a very different outlook, I think, than when the race ended. We had a lot of cautions at the very beginning, and it seemed like that was going to be the trend of the race. And then suddenly, halfway through the race, everything just really cleaned itself up. We got some long green flag runs, and the image of the race was just completely turned on its head. Did you prefer getting those short runs, or were you a little bit happier towards the end when you were able to kind of stretch out your legs and get those longer runs in?
I was glad we got some long runs after those first few cautions just to see where my car stacked up, because I really didn't know. I was worried that I wasn't going to have anything. But no, once we got the long runs, I knew I was at least a little bit competitive, and then I could start tweaking on the car. I was making adjustments all night. But I didn't have anything for John and Bryson, so I was just hoping for mayhem at the end. Whatever I could do. We had green, white check or whatever. I was hoping for all that.
Yeah, you weren't the only one. I'm sure there was a few drivers hoping for a little bit of chaos there. But Michael, you got anything for Matt?
No, I mean, Matt, you've had a very strong, consistent season. I just want to shout out congratulations, even though you said you didn't feel like super comfortable at the track and didn't have the car quite dialed in. You still ended up in the top 5, so solid run from you tonight. Did anybody want to shout out for us tonight?
I just want to say, really excited about the season. I came into this season with the goal of making a Final Four and then seeing what happened and achieve that. So just want to carry this momentum in next year. I'm excited to be back at 100% next year. This league's awesome. Definitely want to thank Damaris and Kevin. They run a great league. You guys doing the broadcast rock. I love watching them back. All my friends and family. I know my mom, Taylor's out there watching. I know he's on vacation with his dad. They're watching. Appreciate all the fans out there watching. And yeah, my teammate John and Taylor, just it was a great year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, so that's 4th place in the playoffs. Now we're going to go to 3rd in the playoffs, but 4th in the race. Lucas Weitzman, let's see if we can get him dialed up. Lucas Weitzman, you got a copy?
Yep.
Well, Lucas, you showed a lot of speed late in that race, but when it came down to it, that number 6 car was just wicked fast. Tell me a little bit about your race and kind of what your outlook was throughout it.
Well, I went into it optimistic, and as the first stage went on, that optimism quickly fell. But put some adjustments into it. Was trying all night, just try to get it to not be tight in turn 3, and we finally got it there. But it was just too late, and those two, the 63 and 6, were just in another zip code all night. And I don't think, unless something crazy happened, I don't think there was any way I was going to get around them on the racetrack.
Now, I know that you and your team worked on this setup, and it seemed like you were pretty confident in the setup going in. You mentioned you came into the race pretty confident. How did the car feel, and I mean, did it change much throughout the course of the race?
Yeah, we started out super tight, couldn't get the car to turn, and I tried to loosen it up, ended up loosening it up too much. That was around halfway through the race, and once the track kind of cooled down a little bit, and we kind of tried to loosen it up even more just to try to send it at the end. It felt a bit better, but I just couldn't get there.
All right. Well, Michael, get anything for Lucas?
Lucas, you've had a great season. I'm sure you're gonna be back next season. I'm coming back for more. Yeah, just real quick question for you. I just was wondering. You really did seem like you got your car. You were working on it throughout the entire race. It didn't start off great, but it started to really come to you that very last stage after that last caution. Were you thinking there, like you got up on the back of the 63 of Bryson Hicks and Ball? Were you thinking you had a chance at that point?
I think we would have needed another caution to split that last 40 laps in half, because I had loosened it up and shortened it so much that it wasn't going to make it to the end, and that's why I dropped off a cliff at about 20 laps in. I couldn't make it there.
Okay. I mean, like I said, it definitely seemed like you brought your car in, and it was getting really close there. But like you said, you kind of fell off a cliff there. Fourth place, though, still a solid run. Third place overall in the championship. Want to thank you for joining us tonight. Anybody you want to go ahead and give a shout out to?
Just big shout out to my team, Andre, Robert, Blake, Chad, Mike, especially Andre and Robert for bringing me on the team. I definitely wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for them. And also want to shout out Labor 12 and Randy. They're watching. Want to shout out CTC and Low Drag. And last but not least, everybody for doing the broadcasting and the admin work this year. It's crazy to put on these long of races for this long in a year, and it's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Lucas, and we'll see you next year.
Yep. See ya.
All right. It's going to be your fourth place finisher. Third place in the playoffs now. It is time for a non-playoff driver. Finished third in the race. Got himself a podium amongst all the championship hype. Slowly kind of crept his way into the podium. Didn't even notice him. Here's Derek Heitman. You got a copy, Derek?
Yes, sir.
Well, Derek, what a good night. I mean, start of the race, you're a little bit further back in the pack, and then before you know it, you're mid-pack, and then you're up front. And once you got there, you never really left. You had pace to keep with the leaders. I would say easily the fastest non-playoff car out there. Tell me a little bit about your night.
Well, my night, on lap 1, I hit a patch of black ice and somehow destroyed myself. I have no idea how I did that. I really couldn't tell you what happened. I'm sure you guys seen it. Car just got super loose on the entry to 3, and tried saving it and overcorrected because these next gen cars are a pain in the butt to save. But bought myself, fixing 3 minutes of optional. Passed all the way up to, I want to say, 15th place multiple times before I got all the damage fixed, and then just finally just had to find my way back up to, I think 8th it was. And then after that, the last restart, I said I ain't saving nothing. I'm leaving nothing on the table, and I just set sail.
Absolutely. Now, one question that I think a lot of viewers always have is, how does a non-playoff driver approach racing and racecraft with the playoff drivers in the championship battle? Well, now we get to hear it from a non-playoff driver. Were you racing the championship drivers any different, or was it just another day in the shop and you were just going all out?
It's 100% racing them different. Every time I got behind Matt Long, I hung out behind him and hung out behind him and hung out behind him, and I didn't push the issue trying to pass him until I was visibly faster. Once I knew I was faster and my tires were better, then I pushed the issue. Or like at the very end of the race there, you guys probably weren't watching it, but I hung behind Lucas for, I want to say, probably 10 laps until Bryson drove away far enough where I was like, okay, well now I'm going to try to make the position gain. So I was paying attention. I was trying to be aware of the situation, and luckily made wise decisions and didn't hurt anyone's race.
So taking a bit of a respectful approach to it. I like it. I respect it. I gotta wonder maybe where you would have finished if you'd been a little more aggressive. But hey, a podium finish is nothing to hang your head at. Great night as usual. Anything for Derek?
Yeah, Derek, we were noticing some lap times there, and there at the end of the race, John Delaney put in a ridiculously fast 27.2 something. Aside from that, I'm pretty sure you were the only person that was in the 27.3s, so you definitely had the car that could challenge for the win. If you weren't so cautious about those championship drivers, how do you feel your chances were there at the end?
I don't think it would have played out any differently, honestly. Just because Jonathan was extremely fast on the long run. He definitely had a better car. And Bryson, I felt like I could have probably hung with Bryson longer and matched pace with him. But, I mean, it's just being realistic. I don't think there's any chance I would have ever got around him. Or if I did happen to get around him, I wouldn't have been able to hold the position. So, I mean, as far as long run pace goes, they definitely had me there.
Well, Derek, I want to thank you for joining us here. Congratulations, third place. Hopefully this carries momentum over for next season. Is there anybody that you want to shout out before we let you go here?
Oh, well, I got to shout out, all my friends, in this race that are part of EPI, Elite Performance Industries. My teammate, Matt DiCiani, he's a great teammate all the time. As far as pit strategy goes, we're tracking where each other are on the racetrack, trying to figure out when we're going to pit and how it's going to work out and speculating there. And then finally, I definitely got to shout out Michael Conti because I wouldn't be the driver that I am on the sim today without, taking the leap and joining the Race EPI development program. He's really taught me a lot, taught me about, pace management, tire management, and essentially how to be fast in the long run. He's great.
All right, well, Derek, thank you for your time, and good luck next season.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, just two more interviews to get through. We're going to start here with Bryson Hicks, second place in the race, second place in the championship. Bryson Hicks, you got a copy?
Yep.
Well, Bryson, it was a pretty successful night here at your home track, bringing it home on the podium. A lot of pace all night long. Brought it home P2, and not by much, just a few tenths of a second between you and the winner, John Delaney. Tell me a little bit about the end of the race. That's what I want to hear about. You were slowly reeling in the number 6. Seemed like you might have had a little more speed. Walk me through it.
Yeah, we had that caution with about 35 to go. We went green, and John fired off real fast, like he just wasn't going to save tires, which that's perfectly valid strategy with less than 30 laps to go or so. And I just let him try to be patient, try to just let him go run out there, try and heat up his tires and see if I can reel him in with 5-10 laps to go. And it started working. Right around 10 laps to go is when I started being faster than him. It just wasn't quite enough to close the distance. I probably needed 5 more laps in order to get there, but I tried to send it to turn 1 there on the last lap. I practiced that just a little bit before the race, that you can try and throw a slide job there in turn 1 with all that open asphalt to the apron, and I was almost close enough to get in front of him, but it wasn't quite, and I had to just watch him sail on by.
Now, when the season started, you were considering just running part-time, going into semi-retirement. That changed. You ended up running pretty much full-time, and you made it all the way to the Championship 4. And then there's been word that you signed with a new team for next year. What are the plans going forward?
I still want to run a lot of races. I'm going to run less than I did this year, just skip a few more that I'm just not interested in. I'm having a lot of fun every Saturday here. It's great to do this every weekend. 4 hours of fun most weeks. It's pain some others, but it's a lot of fun to be in this league and to have this competition to look forward to every week.
All right. Well, Michael, anything for Bryson?
Yeah, Bryson, there was a point there towards the end of stage 3 before that last caution where you and Delaney were kind of feeding through some traffic there. It seemed like you really had the pace advantage when you guys were going through the traffic. And we also saw a couple times where you got into fresh air out in the front. You really were able to grab like a huge lead there. Just tell me how your car felt throughout the night, because even though you took second, it definitely seemed like you had a very strong car and definitely throughout the evening had a chance to take first overall.
Yeah, the car was great. It was really fast, especially in clean air. That start of the race, I immediately got through the front and was pulling away from everybody else. And unfortunately, I didn't really get too many long runs where I was the car in front after about 20 laps. Um, I think I really lost the race at the start of stage 3 when John got around me. As soon as he was in front of me, I was always going to have dirty air on me, and I wasn't going to be able to save tires the way I wanted to. And it really just, that was the way the race was going to end there. He had pulled to about a second and a half lead before green flag pit stops, and then afterwards I got it back to about a second. We had a little bit of the traffic there, and trying to maneuver through it. He was a little bit slower than I was. He just had a few more cars around him that came out between us, and it slowed him down a little bit more. But I think there at the end, if it had gone green without that last caution, he was still probably going to pull away. He was starting to be about half a tenth faster than me there just before the caution, and it was going to take a lot for me to make that ground back up.
Well, Bryson, I want to first of all congratulate you on a great season, second place overall. Awesome job this year. Who did you want to shout out to tonight before we let you go?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to shout out my teammates over at Ace Moneymaker Racing, all the guys as well of our team alliances. So you got Kevin, Preston, and Cody, my teammates. Great job all year. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with them. Also, Adam, Dustin, Kyle, Chad, Damaris, all those guys. We worked together all year on setups and how to drive the track, and it's been a lot of fun working with them, and I hope to continue that next year.
All right, well, thanks for your time, Bryson. Congratulations on a good season. We'll see you next year.
Thank you, guys.
All right, it is time for one last interview, but to introduce our new champion, I'm going to bring in one of the league admins, Kevin Steele. Kevin, good to have you up in the booth, and I hear you're going to say a word here about our champion.
Yeah, thanks, guys. First off, on behalf of 100% Leagues, I just want to thank everybody involved. First, the drivers. It's a very long season. We only had one off weekend this year. Can be very grueling, but thanks to everybody that showed up and put in the effort to be prepared and put on some good races. Everybody at home for watching all year. The support means a lot, and the whole broadcast team, everybody involved all year. We had a lot of people help out this season, and we appreciate everybody. But I'm gonna drag John in here for now. But before we present the virtual trophy, I just want to say a couple things about our champion, John. John's been one of the guys that was with us since the very beginning. I was actually on a team with him in the first season, and so I got to know him pretty well. And back then he was like 15. He was just a kid. He didn't quite know anything about what he was doing, and it's just been wild to watch his progression over the last 3 years. He's become, he's gone from being, maybe he'll finish 8th, maybe he'll finish 20th, nobody really knows, to being a constant threat week in, week out for race wins. And I think everybody, would agree with me saying that we assumed that this championship was eventually going to come to John. So on behalf of 100% Leagues and everybody involved, that'll do, Pig. Congrats, you're the 2022 100% Cup Series champion.
Thank you.
Take it away, guys.
Well, John, as Kevin said, you've been around pretty much since the beginning, and you've always had speed. Just took a little bit of time to refine that speed and mold it into something a little bit more consistent. And, well, I'd say you did a pretty good job of it here. 10 wins on the season, insane average finish, and now you're parking it in victory lane for the Coben Johnson Championship Saturday, final race of the year. You're a champion, John.
I am. It's honestly, it's crazy. It's pretty surreal. We were close last year. Kind of sucked that we didn't win it last year, but we made sure to come this year and win it for sure.
Now, it seemed like your car really came to life late in the race. You had speed all race long, but at the end, it was on another level. I think after lap 280, somewhere after lap 280, you ran the only 27.2 in the entire field. You were the only person to break into that bracket. Was that speed always there, or did the car just kind of come to you as the sun started to set?
The car did come to me. The car was set up around a 90-degree track temp, which is what we got around that lap 280, 270 mark. So once the track temp really cooled off there at the end, the car was just dialed in. It was pretty much almost perfect. It just drove great, and then that restart there, car drove great. We were just able to pull away there. Yeah.
Now, at the very end of the race, Bryson was slowly reeling you in. It didn't look like it was going to be enough, but he did throw a Hail Mary in what is now 1 and 2 with that big corner with a lot of flat asphalt out there. And he closed the gap considerably, but had to back out of it because he knew he couldn't get in front of you. He couldn't throw the slider. What were you thinking looking in your mirror, seeing that orange car sail it into the corner about 20 mile an hour too fast?
Oh man, yeah. I was honestly I just wide-eyed. Like I didn't know what was gonna actually happen because I saw him dive down there and I didn't know if he was gonna be able to actually make it stick. So I was actually starting to brake a little bit, planning he was gonna be able to get in front of me and then I could just kind of just cross him over. But he never really did get to my bumper, luckily. So, but yeah, he was slowly starting to catch me there at the end. I kind of just burned off my right rear tire a little too much, and yeah, he dove it in there into turn one, and I was I didn't know what to do honestly. It was just kind of just go in the turn one. Hopefully you don't wreck. That was pretty much it.
Well, luckily it worked out. Michael, you got anything for John?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to that last restart there. You're on the outside line. It seemed like for a majority of the race, if you were on the outside line there on restarts, you kind of got hung out to dry. So walk us through what your mindset was there. You were able to get down and block off Bryson Hicks and Bond, jump into second place behind Cam Stone, eventually take the lead. But what was going through your what was your thought process there?
So yeah, the top wasn't too good on restarts. Especially at the start of the race. Towards the end of the race, it wasn't as bad. But starting second, I knew Cam was he had like 10 lap older tires, maybe a little bit more than that. But I knew he was a pretty easy car to just get around. I just had to just be patient with him. So I was really just trying to stay ahead of Bryson, and luckily we were able to get a pretty decent restart there and stay out in front of him going into 1 and 2, and we were just able to keep that clean air and stay ahead of him, and that's really how we won the race.
Yeah, that was definitely a clutch moment there. Clutch driving from you all season long. 10 wins on the season, absolutely stunning. Just complete dominance, man. Congratulations on the championship, well deserved. Who do you want to shout out tonight?
So yeah, I got a lot of people to shout out.
Go for it, man. Championship winner.
First and foremost, Kevin Steele, Namaris. They've been great admins every year that I've run this league. They do a fantastic job every year. So they do a great job, like I said. So huge shout out to those guys. It's pretty amazing to have a full field of cars that want to come out and do this league just about every week. So huge shout out to those guys. Thank you guys in the booth and everyone that broadcasted the races. Thank everyone there. Let's see, everyone who raced this year as well. I had a fantastic time racing all these guys. And definitely wasn't as easy as last year. But they got these guys definitely picked up the speed this year, and I had a blast racing them for it. So huge shout out to everyone who raced this year. Had a blast. And then let's see. Thank my lockdown racing teammates. Taylor Stout, Matt Long, Jason D. Baker, and then Ralph Hutchison early on in the season. So thank those guys for sticking just about just about all year, except for Ralph. But huge shout out to those guys. I think we got second in team championship points, so that's always good. Let's see. Kevin for the paint scheme, looked good out there. Shout out to mom and dad watching, Tanya and Bob watching as well. Thank you guys. Let's see. I want to thank Jason S. Taylor. He's been a big help during these off coke weeks, doing testing and helping with the setup. So huge shout out to him. He's kind of the big reason why I'm here tonight. So thank you, Jason. And let's see. I think that's it for me. Had a fun year. Glad we were able to win the championship. So yeah.
All right, John. Well, again, congratulations on the championship. We're gonna let you go celebrate, and yeah, I think you've definitely earned it.
Thank you, Andre.
John Delaney out of the booth, and with that is pretty much going to do it for our post-race coverage of the Coben Johnson Championship Saturday, the final race in 2022 for the 100% Cup Series. Michael, that was an interesting race. It wasn't as dramatic or flashy as some of the finale races that we've had, but it was unique in its own way in that it started out kind of as one race, right? We had a lot of drivers up front at the beginning that we didn't see towards the end, and we had a lot of cautions at the beginning that we didn't see at the end. It really kind of changed pretty drastically throughout the course of the event, and ultimately John was the driver who was able to adapt and use that change to his advantage.
Yeah, no, he definitely was able to adapt. We saw him and Bryson having a solid fight pretty much anywhere they were in the field. They were really close together. There was a point where I think all four of the championship drivers were 18th, 19th, 21st, and 22nd. And you saw, Delaney and Bryson just right there neck and neck with each other all night long. And like you said there at the end, John Delaney was just able to just take control over that restart and just, run away with it really at the end there. So kind of like he did for the rest of the season with all those wins that he racked up, just kind of running away with it.
Absolutely. I've been Andre Grambush with 3 Wide TV, Carlos Costa, Michael, David. I want to thank all the viewers at home for being with us all year long and following along with their favorite drivers and following along with the league. It has been a fun season. It was a season with a big learning curve with a new car. A lot changed this year. And I personally want to thank the league admins for just putting on the show every week so that we can come out here and watch some good racing. Also, kind of random, but I want to thank the driver Cam Stone for even getting me this gig to commentate. I've been with this league pretty much since the beginning commentating, and it was Cam Stone who even kind of got it in the admin's ear that maybe they could get me. So big thanks to him and big thanks to Carlos for producing and doing all he's done for the league throughout this year and in the years before. And here's to the future.